All right, and I'm going to call the meeting to order and start. It's at 6:31. Finance Committee, pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted via in-person remote means. This means that members of the public body as well as members of the public may access this meeting in person or virtually. The meeting may be accessed remotely via the contact provided for this Zoom meeting, as well when required by law or allowed by me, the chair. People wishing to provide public comment or otherwise participate in the meeting may do so in person or remotely. Additionally, this meeting will be broadcast later via the town YouTube channel and Topsfield Cable Television, who is on it and is recording. Welcome back, everybody. It's been a lovely break since town meeting. The second one, 2.5 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. But the agenda today is to review the town meeting minutes, review and vote the annual FinCom reserve requests, which I believe we have the finals of all those. I think there were 4 of them. I think that was the last we got. And we got that late, mid last week, Tuesday, I think. Review FY 2020, but and since then there's been no changes, correct?
No.
Okay. Review FY 2027, what went well, what could be better, discuss 2028 expectations, how to address revenue, and then our favorite thing, vote the summer chair. Second favorite thing.
Mm-hmm. Who's going to do summer chair? She's not even here. It's not here.
So moving that forward and having that conversation, first we're going to start the meeting minutes. So we have one set of meeting minutes. They are, let me pull them up, from the 16th, which was our pre-meeting to the special town meeting prep. Anybody have any motions or discussions or comments?
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of June 16 as written.
Amanda, if you want, you can pass it over to him. He can plug it in over there. We have a motion.
Second.
Do you have a second? Any discussion? I have one piece of discussion, which is just for us all to again thank Heidi for her wonderful work.
Yes. Yep.
And really appreciate it.
Thank you, Heidi. Always a job well done.
Yes, and I think they are at the appropriate level of detail with the good comments and good description that is concise, but tries to get out to everyone what was actually covered. So greatly appreciated. With that, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Since we're all in the room, despite it being a hybrid, that we don't have to do roll call vote, and it is unanimous and they're approved. All right. So the next item, and I was meant to ask you, do you have a paper copies? Because we actually have to sign those forms. I just realized.
We do an electronic signature now, so
okay.
You want to just like.
But each one, the problem is technically on the form, at least the way it used to be, I don't know if it changed or if that was just a procedural thing.
I feel like that was like a preference thing. Like
okay.
I'd take the meeting minutes as.
Okay. Okay. I'm fine with that, as long as everyone else is.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a total, and I'm going to put them up on the screen.
Amanda, just for make sure I understand correctly, these are accounts where for some unexpected reason we overspent them somewhat, and this is to balance and close the account. Is that the accounting issue here?
Yep, and then there's 2 different kinds. There's the FinCom reserve request, which we determined were like truly unforeseen things.
And then there's a transfer.
And then there's some transfer requests that we probably, they weren't emergencies, like they just came up and
I mean, look,
we need money to.
And they're within line
items, just like a STM.
let me look at the
And
agenda.
those line items in the omnibus would be overspent right now by approximately this amount, or
Not necessarily, because people are still paying bills. So sometimes they'll be like, I know a bill's coming in for around 2,500, but I don't have it yet, so it might not be in the budget to actuals yet.
not that it matters. You know, you pay it one way or the other.
Right, yeah.
So it doesn't affect the overall finance. I was just more curious.
Mhm.
And you had sent us budget to actuals as of 6/25.
Right.
Mhm.
Is some of the salary, is that like one more payroll's left or something?
Yes, yep. I like highlighted some of like, pretty much how like I look at them as I'm going along, when I check like weekly, just kind of what I'm looking for.
Okay,
Is it okay if I post those in our minutes?
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Thanks for asking, but yeah, absolutely. So we have a budget transfer, which is really, this is more informational for us. I mean, I don't think we actually vote to,
I need votes from both the select board and finance.
oh, you do, okay, for
Yeah.
the transfer, okay.
For these.
And then, income reserve fund transfer, and then I'm just trying to check my notes of why I have two, select board, okay.
The select board and tree warden.
Tree warden, okay. So so let's start with the FinCom reserves, and I'm gonna pop these
And we're starting from our full balance.
from 100,000, yes. So there is overtime and basically in contract of $3,000 for trees, and this was related to May 20th, weekend, I believe.
Yeah, there's one on the 20th and then there was another one,
And just for the record, Mike Hartman is joining online.
I'm surprised it's that low, actually. They must have taken some out of their regular account too. There were a lot of stuff down that storm.
so that was so they kept that in-house because Gary was trying to like save money, so someone just came in and that's why it was so cheap. Actually, 'cause it was just straight overtime rather than a contractor.
That's true.
And then the 2,500 was a stump that was like, or like some brush that was like in the middle of the road, but it was like too big for them to like remove themselves, so they had to call someone in.
That's good.
Okay. All right, so, and before we get to this one, let's just, so we make sure we understand all of them, and then we can cover the other one as well. This is effectively, two things, some of the stuff for the select board, to warrant. And I'm assuming that's the cost of the paper and things for the special town meeting and postage associated with that.
Yep.
And then you want the town hall building maintenance, 13,000 is the fire thing, the sprinkler.
The
Correct.
dry sprinkler and the elevator.
Okay. And the elevator, which is a bigger part of it. So if you remember, a couple weeks ago, the elevator was down.
So we had to have the meeting.
And that's why we had one of our meetings outside.
Is that permanently fixed? That's been going on for as long as I can remember. They've been battling it.
I would never say it's perfect. Yeah. So it seems like every
Lucky
other
enough to use
one. Yeah.
Every town hall, city hall elevator goes down.
Well, and our COA is upstairs,
Right.
which is unfortunate, you
Yeah,
know.
that's really poor plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there was a fire, it'd be.
And so, yeah, so to that end, so that's the 13,000 is that, and then there was a sprinkler in the basement that was leaking and got leaking more and more. So they needed to,
It's a dry system?
Yeah, I
So it
don't.
was leaking air then, okay.
It was-
I don't bother you.
no,
They call it like a dry sprinkler. I don't know.
They said it's a dry system, that's why,
yeah,
A dry
I
sprinkler.
don't think it
system.
probably is.
Yeah.
no, it's not, because they were saying, Sam was telling me today that it was leaking water,
I'm familiar with
Yeah.
dry ones from the church,
which is more, I mean, that's more they pump
air.
air,
When the compressors are going on all the time, you know.
yeah.
Yeah, there's air leaks in the system all over the
Yeah.
place.
Okay, so anyway, we go with that, so that's it, so those are our totals, we got 17,000 for the 4,000 associated with special town meeting, and that's explicitly the paper and the mailing. And 13,000 for those two maintenance items, and then,
But also the maintenance is talking about overtime is included.
Oh, for
in
the
that?
elevator.
Yeah, so that's so that anybody that needed information, since they couldn't come upstairs, somebody had to help them.
No, that was the people at the elevator, like
The elevator.
Associated Elevator had to come and we had to pay them overtime because
Okay.
it was after hours.
after hours, right?
So that 13 includes those three things.
Yes.
Okay, so we got to vote these each individual item. Are there any other questions about?
Just a general question. The other costs associated with this special town meeting, there must have been rental of the Masco and people and so forth. I was curious as to the total amount.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because I've heard the numbers are all over the
Yeah.
place on Facebook.
yeah.
I
And I
always
think
thought it was
that,
about 10,000.
and I talked to both Amanda about that and also to the administration as well. That's gonna come out, the actual number, but if you think about it as, this is June, but actual, you gotta get through the month and figure, and put that
Yeah,
together.
no, I would just.
But to your point, it needs to be put out there and it will be out there, and that's a number that everybody's gonna wanna know.
Correct. It's all over the place.
But we need to, yeah, and that's because people, there were estimates at the start, and some people heard that, there were estimates, and at the end of the day, what do you count in that?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there were some known expenses, the rental, any services associated with it. But then do you count all of the, and you'd certainly count all the voter support, any paid for the vote day. But do you count Beth's time when she got comp time on the other, or in theory would get comp time? I mean, that's something that,
Ballpark.
well, yeah, agreed.
Is it 10 or
Agreed.
is it 40?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then people poke holes in our ballpark numbers, so then it becomes a real number.
so I think ultimately that's expected to come out.
Will there be another reserve fund transfer request?
No.
Not that I'm aware of.
You don't think so for the STM?
I've asked and I've heard nothing else.
Okay.
Okay, so, any other questions before we go to a motion?
How do we make a motion with two separate items?
You're gonna treat each one of these as a standalone, not each, there are two reserve fund requests.
Right,
One is for 17,000, the other is for 3,000.
okay. I'll make a motion for reserve
Fund transfer
for fund transfer of $17,000.
dollars. Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, so that's a reserve fund transfer from the select board function. There we go, to the function, select
Right.
board function from the Topsfield Finance Committee.
Two different.
In the amount of $17,000. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
On the maintenance stuff, are we over and above like the maintenance line items in the budget?
We will be once we pay these invoices.
Okay.
Okay. So, and this is all for the purpose of funding $4,000 associated with special town meeting, specifically the paper and the postage for the mailing of the second meeting talks.
Right.
And town hall maintenance for $13,000, encompassing two items. One, the expenses associated with repairing the elevator back in early June, and second for repairs to the sprinkler system in the basement. Mike, you have a comment?
No, I'm listening. Thank you. I'm sorry I'm late, guys. I had my computer died and I don't have a power supply now. I'm on my phone.
So with that, now with Mike here, we get to do a roll call vote. Thank you for joining us, Mike.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Mike Hartman.
Aye.
Aye. Heidi. Farley. My God. Hi. Sorry. Heidi Farley was my close friend in high school who sat in the seat right in front of me for 4 years. I don't know where that name came from suddenly. Sorry. Tom?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
And Che? Aye. So the 17,000, I'll take, we have a second one. Make sure I get the right one. There we go.
Get this one more.
Okay. I'll
Make a
clean it up.
motion for FinCom reserve fund transfer of $3,000 for the tree warden department.
Okay. Transfer, okay, do we have a first? We have a second, rather?
Second.
Okay, so $23,000 covering unexpected tree removals late in the year, resulting in overtime and tree removal contractor expenses, overtime and contract expenses. We have a first, we have a second. Any further discussion? I'm gonna go in reverse order. David?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Heidi?
Aye.
And Mike Hartman?
Aye.
And Che, oh, well, hi.
Hi.
Ah, it's a day. Okay, has also been approved, so, both of those, and,
So those are the only expected, so we'll drop
Yep.
80 to,
80 will go to free cash, so at least we'll have a little free cash.
these are, just for my own benefit, are these like normal types of transfers that we do with the FinCom reserve? Special town meetings.
Yeah. Yeah, these are not, everything in here
Yeah.
is within what we would normally have. There are, two mechanical issues late in the year. We would like to see the maintenance fund have enough to consume these, because they're not that much, but it is what it is. And the same thing with the tree warden work. That was a late storm. It wasn't like it was a winter storm. It was something that we would have expected to be built into it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I say that, Mike, you've got history here as well, and that makes similar.
Yeah, I would say this is one of the least, I mean, I have no issues with this. They all seem to be surprises, and it doesn't seem like they're sweeping anything under the rug. And those are accusations I've made in the past. So just from my point of view, yeah. Yeah.
So-
No, I just to kind of calibrate Michael K on that. Just sort of,
Yeah.
there's some in the past I've voted against this, and this, yeah.
Okay, and so then the last thing we had was the transfer of reserve fund, instead of reserve fund to year-end transfer. And it's funding for transferring 3,800 from highway line and painting to diesel, and 1,000 from planning board clerical to planning board advertising. We get a little context on these and.
Sure, the gas and diesel, so that's, as we all know, like an account for all of the town, so like police, fire, highway. Gary wanted me to clarify that, because it's not just his department, so
So that's
That-
just the fuel they're using.
everyone's fuel.
Not shocked at that side.
Yeah, exactly, increasing fuel costs. Also, like it depends really on like upticks of details as well. So there was a ton of details at the beginning of the year, which we pay for gas for those when people are going out on the details. There was a lot for the Republic strikes earlier in the year as well. So that's just a product of
When
someone
you say
said
going on in details, is that with a town car or with their own car?
town car.
Okay.
Yep.
Otherwise,
Hopefully
yeah.
going on a town car, yep.
No, yeah.
We don't fill personal vehicles with that at all.
No, that-
The the planning advertisement, from my knowledge, that is essentially just something that had to be advertised later on. They didn't have enough money in the budget. It wasn't necessarily a surprise as much as just like administrative. The bill didn't make it, or someone didn't pay it, and it came up after the fact of town meeting.
This is a side issue. We agree to not have to go to print advertising.
I have to get a picture. It's gotta be tomorrow.
Going forward.
Yeah,
I have
so
to
that
get
should help.
pictures tomorrow morning. I mean,
Well, like,
this is a long thing.
So
Right.
it's not official yet,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, we still have to get
Well,
the
that's right.
blessing at the state level.
Yeah.
And these transfers are interdepartmental rather than intra-departmental, so that's why we have to make these official votes, right?
So, well, no, it's line item to line item.
Yeah.
You have to stay at a line item. So planning, both the bottom 1,000 to stay, it's all part of the planning board's budget, but it's moving,
From
In-
wages to,
in the department to staying in the department for both of those. So,
but it's within the function.
yes, that one is.
Mhm.
I would say highway line and painting is are those both?
no.
No, they're in separate.
Yeah. He's not painting lines this year.
Yeah.
So he had extra money that he was he said we could use to offset this cost.
Oh, so we have to approve even the line item changes. So these and then what we did at the first town meeting, it's like actually super impressive how few we
Yeah.
do. Like the budget's managed pretty tight.
But we need city council approval if we shift between categories, what we call categories. So like
Yeah,
within a particular division, we'll have personnel, which is your salaries, and service categories, and then supplies. And within each of those categories, it's multiple lines. You can
Mhm.
shift between the lines, but if you go between categories,
Exactly.
then you have to get the legislative approval.
Right.
So that's what you're doing here.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty tight though. I would say we do.
Yeah.
At work, we are not.
So,
Yeah, it's like it's very.
so, can I have a motion to, approve the year-end transfers from highway line and painting of 42005, account 420055295 for 3,800 to GGD gas and diesel distribution, and $1,000 from PBD clerical part-time to planning board and development advertising of $1,000. How's that?
I was waiting.
I have the advantage of, I'm reading it, it's in front of me, where it's not for you, yeah. Yeah, I tried to expand it and realized what. So we have a first and a second on this. Any further discussion?
Who was the second, Mike?
Like, yeah, MK. As opposed to MH. All right, having
Yeah,
said that.
no, not,
Okay, nothing, okay. I'm gonna start with Tom.
nothing.
Now I'm gonna go to Michael.
Aye.
Now I'm gonna go to Heidi. Now I'm gonna go to David.
Aye.
Now I'm gonna go to Mike Hartman.
I,
And then Che goes aye as well.
Keep us on our toes.
That's stressful.
Yeah, yeah, no.
Just trying to entertain. Okay. So we have approved all of the financials that we need to for wrapping up the year. And we don't believe there'll be anything else.
One more day, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
And so just coming down and bringing it back to this. So find the agenda, sorry. And did I close the agenda down? No, it's still there. I did close it down, shoot. All right, yeah, I did. Okay, so let me go pull the agenda again, just to have it. All right. So, I want to do a brief FY 2027 and start talking about it and grab some notes along the way, and then 2028. But I want to give some context. And I've had some conversations with a few of the select board members as well in the past couple of days, trying to get moving forward. So we stood up after town meeting and town meeting one and said, look, we know and we've been saying this for years, but as an entity, as a town, we have to make some serious decisions going forward. There are 4 things we can do, but in the next 7 weeks, we can only look at 2 of those. With the understanding, and that was the increase revenue, taxes, explicitly increase taxes, or cut budget and translation to services. We can look at efficiency in the long run. We can look at growth in the long run and other things. But to get through to the 17th of June, that's all, nothing we did in those areas was going to make a difference to the 17th of June. So, well, the 17th of June is in our rearview mirror for us. But the reality is that the 17th of June means that the town had a couple of weeks and into this week and stuff to try and figure out what that actually means and what the impact is. And the town, so the select board specifically, doesn't have a structure yet, right? They're going to vote who their chair is, who their vice chair is, all of that in probably 15 minutes. So I talked to enough members to get a sense that yes, they agree that's the direction we all need to go. Yes, we're going to do that, but we can't start that today. I was hoping we could go into today's meeting and then say, okay, well, we're going to meet like this in 4 weeks time and start doing this. I didn't speak to a quorum, but I spoke to enough to know that that's going to happen and we're going to be part of it, but I don't know, when.
Excellent.
Whether that's today, but I also expressed that if it wasn't July and August, you were gonna have some very vocal people who, on the FinCom, who were probably gonna be vocal. And I'm not encouraging that you all do that, please don't, but I'm saying that I would expect that if it's not happening, it's not gonna it would happen, so. I wanna give that context to understand and give a little bit of understanding to the select board that it does feel like that they acknowledge that it needs to move. And as the elected board that oversees this, they kind of need to be at the front of this.
Yeah.
But we need to start thinking about it. And there's work we could be doing, as I was thinking about this. There's, that we individually could be doing to organize, but individually doing to collect data and information, among other things, right?
One thing I'd like to talk about tonight related to that is to try to get a little bit more detailed understanding of the financial position we're in now and what it looks like a year from now. I did some calculations here I'll share.
Okay, so let's get to,
When we get there.
perfect, thank you. I appreciate that. I think that this is something we're gonna walk through. I'll defer to you all. We can talk forward first, or we can talk backwards first and just do a quick look at 2027, what went well, what didn't, and try and type that in just to get some running notes so that we can capture and what are some of the improvements we can make for next year. Get backwards. I expected that as the answer, but I wasn't gonna drive it one way or the other. And in this process, I think everyone would agree, if anyone that's participating who isn't a FinCom member wants to share perspective and thoughts, it would be appreciated. So I know that Lynn is on here. Lynn, if you have anything that you'd like to share, I will reach out to you at some point specifically and ask. I don't think we have anyone else on right now that's here. But Lynn, let me know if that's something you'd like to do. And
Thank you.
we would your feedback as well. There's two pieces to this, in my thinking about it. One is, what could the town have done better or different? And two is, what could FinCom have done differently? What went well, what didn't? And talk both of those through.
Yeah.
I'm self-focused more than I am externally focused because I can control me. And so I would like us to spend the time on what FinCom can and can't do. Not all of the time, but the majority of the time. And if we're going to just spend 15 minutes on this in total, 10 of it ideally would be what we could do. 5 of it could, because the rest of it is factual and fair, but I think after a while we start kicking a dead horse.
It's good.
So, I like the way we used projected revenue.
Yeah.
You started, I was just gonna make one point, which you actually started exactly what I was gonna say. I was like, if we could start the discussion from like maybe September. Where we were used to doing guidelines to budget process to town meeting, and you started right at the beginning anyway, but I just think it's helpful to think through our process.
Is that structure okay? So let's start with kicking off the year. You all made a huge mistake and wouldn't find someone else to be the chair. So we'll take that one as one negative. But going from there, yes, I know I have a little bit of nudgy humor in me right now. Like that we use projected revenue as part of our model and guidelines.
That we broke out those items that we knew were going to be greater than 2.5%.
Should have broken out pensions as
So
well.
we should have pensions. I think we should break out school from the school health, from town health, anything that was considered identifiable, and that's important in understanding why we're allocating what we're allocating with the projected revenue we think we have available.
I'm spelling it wrong, but I tend to just spell check.
Are you saying, Heidi, suggesting we fully allocate expenses to the elementary school. Pension, health insurance,
So that we know the portion of the town obligation that is related to the school.
then it would be on a somewhat similar basis to Masco. In terms of, I don't want to say fully burdened with the benefits, but
Yeah.
something like that.
And I guess that's not as useful.
Yeah.
Part of the guideline, but we would know you have a guideline of 2.5, but in reality, the overall cost for you is going up, 4, 5, 6%. Is that what you're thinking? Because we're not going to do anything with the health insurance guideline that's broken out, right?
It's gonna be the X%, it's gonna be the X%, but we're then identifying how much of those dollars is for schools.
Yeah.
It's
So
informational.
Yeah.
Mike, do you have something?
No, well, I want to say something I'm going off, but I did at the end of the season, at the end of the first season, I did send Amanda a message like, hey, it went really well this year because algorithmically there were never any issues.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we want to catch that, but I thought the math part of it went well. And then, yeah. But then we're going back to September. So September's a bad time to make the compliment.
It's fine.
But
Tracking the omnibus. Yeah, model.
Yeah.
Very smoothly. Okay. All right. One thing, I was thinking about this. We kind of drove this a few years ago, and some of you guys were here, and John was a big part of it as well. Drove this whole concept of aligning budgets to each group and forcing overrides associated with each group, if there were one. Meaning that if each group outgrew theirs, this was something that came out of FinCom a few years ago.
We mean by group, Shay.
Elementary school, Topsfield, the town, the elementary school, the Essex Tech, and although Essex Tech was newer this year because we kind of just gotten bigger and bigger, and Masco.
Okay.
So they were each given a guideline. This was 3 or 4 years ago. Each were given a guideline and said, if you can't state a guideline, you're asking for an override. Now, I was thinking about that over the past month. And what that did result in is it didn't necessarily change the dollar amount of anything, but it did increase the number of requests for overrides. Right? So instead, we might have had an educational override 3 years ago, one for 1.2 million instead of an 800 and a $400,000 one.
Right.
One for elementary, one for that. Not advocating we change it. I just wanted to recognize that we did this some of us were here, but did this as an approach. And to be honest, the intent of it was to hold each elected board and their associated administration accountable to their own budgets rather than it being combined, I want to just people comfortable with that approach. Is there anything we should look at and change? Because it's all part of the guidelines. This came out as part of our guidelines and getting into guidelines.
I think that that's important to leave it like that, except I know we're gonna have an issue with the elementary school because of the revenue side.
Revenue side, meaning?
Meaning, what is in chapter 7D? That is, we don't know what the exact chapter 70 is going to be. I know that Alyssa had mentioned in the June 22nd meeting that the initial in January, there was a guarantee of, $75 per student. So should that have gone as revenue to the schools? And next year, I don't think there is any kind of guarantee. I think there was supposedly in this chapter 70, the SOA was $30 minimum per pupil increase guarantee. So there is something that's before you know the actual amount, how much are we saying is revenue that can offset what we're gonna have to raise. So I think
Okay,
And also like the revenue side is, like initially you said 9,000 increase in local receipts, right? We know that because the revenue side for health insurance, there's school related, so tightening up how we allocate what we think we're gonna have to raise, and that's why it's gonna be, what do we need, an override
Yeah.
versus some other means of funding something.
okay,
Tightening that up a little bit. I know I do my own, it comes in later, but I do like what the tax recap shows. What the cost is and then how it's funded. And I like seeing that line item, department by department or whatever. That really helps me to see how much are we raising for each department.
Yeah.
So as we can somehow attribute, if there's gonna be revenue from the ambulance, for example. What bucket does that go into?
But are you suggesting we would attach that revenue to specific cost centers?
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I think, I feel like that's a dangerous game to start playing.
Yes.
Because people like it when the revenue's going up. They don't like it when the revenue's going down.
Yeah.
And unless you're willing to play both sides. So that's a game you want to play.
and, I mean, we're not gonna solve this tonight, but I think it's a really good question, and if my first possible idea on it was, well, you track that money, and that ought to be in free cash, be allocated back to them the following year, if it isn't up, on the year.
Alyssa was recommending.
Yeah, not necessarily on this, but if you're gonna track free cash, it doesn't mean that it goes back there, but it means that, look, chapter 70 was, $35,000 more than what was expected. Okay, well, let's take 25,000, 30,000, 35, whatever, of free cash the following year when that's certified. And let's put that towards, if it is elementary school, their special ed reserve fund or something, and encourage them to do that. Something where it trues them up, but you don't have that financial risk. I don't know. We gotta figure that out.
I like that approach though, with free cash, as opposed to
Because that,
promising them their budget.
yeah,
And it's,
And how you deal with that.
Yeah.
yeah.
okay. All right, what else? So it is now cold, it is January, and we are still here.
Can I make one more point on
Please,
on the
of course.
guidelines? Last point. Just thinking back to the process. So we set the guidelines. We spent a ton of time going through everyone's budgets, but it almost seems, by the time we were going through people's budgets, it almost seemed too late to even discuss like major structural changes. I'm getting to the point that I think we knew as soon as we set the guidelines that we were going to have an override for the town. I guess the school told us they weren't going to have one, but we had a sense of like where we were going to end up. And I think we said a few hundred grand. We're actually like right on. And we knew that in September, but it's like, at what point do you start addressing that? I don't think we really addressed it throughout the process. And I'll say, myself included, kind of had the assumption, I was like, oh, this override's not that bad. I think it'll just pass.
Yeah.
And I think we all sort of lived with that assumption.
Yep.
Turned out to be false.
Yep.
But I don't know, knowing, I mean, we could probably know, I would speculate already, we're going to need another override next year if there's not major changes. When do you start suggesting the need for change? Is it when we're going through budgets?
Well,
Especially, I asked specifically about our role.
Yeah.
Because they're not our budgets.
Right.
We're just bringing out questions. But it seems like by the time the department heads are here presenting, it almost seems too late.
It is too late.
But it is the department's obligation to say, this was within. And knowing that you're going to be over, have you started to think about where you cut if you needed to? Because I think, again, it's not our overall structure, but we've heard the public and they want to know what we would add if we got the additional money versus what we subtract if we don't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious when, so I guess that's really the select board's role.
Yeah, so, and this is what kind of, it's associated with what I was saying earlier. At the end of the day, it is the select board who determines that. what you have here is you have a group of people who have skills, experience, and knowledge that they should be using to help drive that. And our influence is really meant to be at the community level, at the voters level, at the, level. So in other words, what the stick we weigh is that we carry, the bat that we carry, or the carrot that we carry, is the fact that in theory, we are the representatives that the community has assigned to go do the research for them and share it back to them. And wouldn't you rather have that person or persons involved in building the process rather than being opining on it, just being presented and opining?
That's your point. So this is what you were talking about before. Once the select word said, like now.
Now,
and
I was just thinking about like how timing and kind of like your comment there, but so you guys are liaisons, right? Like everyone has their departments. And I think that in those liaison conversations, those happen fairly early on in the process. Like that could be the opportunity you have of being like, have you thought about these structural changes and stuff? So that might be a good time to even just like have that conversation. Not that it is the select board, it's like, that's their wheelhouse, but like that is your opportunity to kind of be like, have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? Like kind of different options.
What about internally, Amanda? Have you guys talked about yet? Like having a committee internally to review or consider structural changes?
We are still pretty knee deep in what happened. We're not quite there yet.
Okay.
But I know it will happen.
Okay, so there will be something internal that'll come out of this. Okay.
Because it seems like there needed to be like a and I don't want to speak for you, Dave, but we've spent a lot of time with the police over the winter. And we're leaving some of those meetings. We're like, yeah, I understand their budget, but there's clearly no mandate to reduce costs.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah,
Go
our
back to
2.25%.
Amanda's comment. We really don't, as a liaison, we really don't get to talk until maybe the middle of December and maybe into January. If we spoke in November, would that give us more time to look at the total impact? And look at, in the past, our letters always said, I forgot exactly how we worded it, Jay. I
know where you're going with it. I think the no new services of cost, and then if look for efficiencies or opportunities.
Yeah, and didn't we at some point said, tell us how you'd cut your budget 5% or hold it flat 0?
Yeah.
At some point we
used to,
that as a secondary exercise.
Yeah. I agree with you, David. Like it'd be helpful to have those conversations earlier, but it would also then be incumbent upon us, I think, to come up with guidelines earlier for the departments, right? So remind me again, our guidelines usually come out October, November?
1st of November.
So maybe shortly right after that, we start getting together with departments.
Put the guidelines forward a little bit.
If you can, yeah.
Mike and Lynn.
But it would, it would help. It would help if the people would actually deliver guideline budgets with ass up on top of it. But there's some years we come in and nobody has a guideline budget. This year, elementary and Masco did have guideline budgets, but
to your point, what you're really talking,
we sent out the guidelines and sometimes they ignored them.
Yeah, usually. Somebody ignores it every year or has to. But what you're talking about is, okay, back to the conversation, this is to make guideline, this is what I'd have to cut. Type of thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I go to my liaison meetings and my liaison doesn't know what, ignores the guideline. So.
Okay, Lynn, do you have anything?
Yeah, just a couple of thoughts. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. In the past, we've had 5-year forecasts to be able to project what things are going to look like. And I've just heard rumblings. I don't know what the details look like, but that for the next several years, if we're at the run rate we've been, we're looking at maybe $600,000 in overrides. I mean, that's a place to start to say, if we're looking to not do overrides, that's a number that you could start with. And I would say this effort is very exciting, the idea of putting a group together to start to look at both revenue opportunities and ways of changing how we do business. I wouldn't frame it as we either raise taxes or we cut services. I don't think that's the appropriate way to look at it. It would be.
I think, Lynn, that was only the 6 weeks of May to went from the last one till now. Now what we're saying is there are the other two things. We got to look at, those are still two big ones, but we got to look at efficiencies and opportunities to do things differently, which is, to me, that's efficiencies. It can change how you operate. And then the other one is how can we grow revenue? It just was during the 8 weeks or 6 weeks from May 7th until June 17th. There's nothing in those areas we could have done that would have made a material difference.
Yeah. Way too tight a time frame. But I love that, looking at doing things differently, because if we looked at those, the 34 towns in Essex County, we're number 2. Pushing up on number 1 is the highest taxes. So someone is doing something different than we are, and it's a different way to provide services. So it's not and I've heard it a lot, and maybe I'm just reading Facebook too much, but you either raise taxes or you cut services. Those are the only 2 options. It's like, no, I think there are a lot more out there. And to the question you guys raised, and this will be my final point, I'd say we have to start now. We can't wait until January. We just won't have any time to do it then.
Yeah. So the intent is to, thank you, Lynn. The intent is to start those, as we all know, and start looking at some of that now, and then participate and actively work with and partner with the select board to try and drive some of that.
Jay, could I just ask one other question? Sure. I'm sorry. Do we have a projection? I haven't seen. Do we have like 5-year forecast? Do we know what with the run rate, what things are going to look like in the next 5 years?
I think we have a 5-year forecast. What I'd say is what we should probably be doing as a FinCom with our year, with some of our years, with our years of experience, and is looking at it and going, okay, is the assumptions around growth realistic? Or do we know, for example, I suspect the 5-year forecast, for example, didn't take into consideration the doubling of the number of students at Essex Tech.
Right.
Right? And so we now know that. So those, and that's an easy example, but I suspect there's an assumption around healthcare costs and insurance that's probably less than what the last 4 years have been.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we as a group ought to be looking at that a little more than we are.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Yeah.
And if it's not.
Forecast been updated? Because I know there was one from 2023, starting 5 years back. Have you done anything with it, or?
Oh yeah, I've had a forecast going for a while. What I would probably say at this point is to wait until we finish the tax recap.
Yeah.
I mean, I can give it to you. It just won't include 2027's budget. Like I give you it for 2026. Like it wouldn't include the whole recap for 2027 at this point in time, but we could have like all the actuals in there from 2026. There's been like some hesitation because essentially the flow of data usually goes like I give it to Kevin, then Kevin presents it to the select board, and then it comes here. And I don't think we've really gotten on the agenda in the past at the select board meetings to present it and like kind of go through it all, because it's very data heavy.
Yes.
So I've worked with DLS, the resource Jay and I were talking about earlier, actually, and they've helped me put together like kind of like a dashboard of information this past year. But like by the time we got that together, it was like November. So I think for this year, we've talked about adding in like an earlier presentation to financial forecast to the select board, which would then come here, and also debt, because debt falls off and we're not like replacing the debt.
It's going to start being a benefit to us.
And then also, but a benefit to us, but also it's like a philosophy conversation of, are we still feeling strongly about being like a free cash heavy community?
Yeah.
Or should we consider like spreading those costs with debt? I mean, if we're free cash, we can't keep raising our local receipts, because that's what we rely on. But if we lean more debt, then those local receipts that we're relying on, we can kind of embed into the operating budget to pay off debt. So it's kind of like a balance there. And that's how I create like my mentality, is like knowing that we rely on free cash quite a bit to like fund all those
So
Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say one comment on that and then just, yeah, I think we should all dig into that conversation. And I think FinCom needs to be part of that conversation, because I'll give you one place where certainly not thinking about the advantage of, the advantage of using debt is it's, there are a couple of advantages and some disadvantages, but sorry, is that, okay. The advantage of one of the advantages of using it is that, it's a vote, it's there, and it doesn't directly impact, in theory, the operational budget. But the reality is it does impact the wallet, right? My wallet, your wallet, everyone's wallet, for a period of time, then it rolls off. And if we're not tracking that as well, then what's happened is we've either, on both sides of that, we have a community and a number of people in the community who don't understand why their taxes did this, because at the end of the day, they don't see separate line items, that they don't write separate checks, they write a check. Right, so debt, when it rolls off, and this is what the mistake I made as a member of FinCom, and FinCom made about 5, 6, 7 years ago when Masco's debt was rolling off, have not, when their budgets grew by 2%, but an extra 1.5% was because their debt had rolled off. We need to keep those two things tracked better.
Well, I was thinking more like inside the levy.
Yeah.
Not like the.
Okay.
Because what's happening is debt falls off, and instead of replacing it with another capital item,
We're doing
absorbing it into
operational.
the police budget.
Yeah.
Highway
Yeah.
budget, or the accounting budget,
Yeah.
and that's also creating like a more need for
Got it.
free cash. But like the ideals of like the state's like, you should match the funding source length to the item.
Yeah.
So like really debt exclusion should only be like a roofing project or like
Yes.
one random one-off things, but like to purchase a fire engine, that should be like in the levy debt,
Yeah.
and that should be replaced as it's going on 10 years, 20 years. So then it's not being above and beyond, it's like all within that levy. Yeah,
And we haven't taken out debt in a long time, except for the water.
only for water.
Water, yeah.
I remember, go back 10 years, a lot of the big capital items were funded by debt, remember?
Yeah. Yeah, no,
It's a bit of an unusual.
But we also have, other than, let's think about it, exclude water and exclude the fire trucks.
Right.
We haven't, well, we have a couple of things that are in the $200,000 range, but we haven't done a lot that would be.
School windows is probably that.
That was, so the school windows, and that one was,
No, I mean,
The new one,
in the
yeah,
next couple of years,
oh,
I'm thinking that might be the next.
but that's an SBA thing.
Okay.
yeah,
Because the debt is starting to roll off. I think this year our debt costs in the operating budget only went up 10,000, but it's gonna maybe be flat one year and then it's gonna start decreasing.
In a couple of years.
Which
ago,
will create room in the
Yeah.
operating budget, but I had in my mind, there probably is a project that'll come in and then it'll.
well, but then don't forget, in all likelihood, we're gonna have a very.
Masco.
Yep, yep.
Or Masco, yeah. Yeah.
And
The only point I was gonna make, I appreciate
go.
that you maintain the forward-looking forecast, Amanda. I think for FinCom purposes, we could take a very simple approach to this. That it's like, and I was even gonna say 3-year forecast, but it's like even just in the 5 buckets that we use for our guidelines. If this is gonna increase 3-4% a year for 3 years, just a super high level view. Of what it would look like over 3 years. And I think that would inform us. It's like, oh, if everything's just gonna stay status quo, we know we'll have an override again next year. And we can say that with some confidence. And I don't think we need to get more detailed for our purposes than that.
I think. Thoughts?
3-year forecast to me for the FinCom. I would be more relevant.
I'd love to do our guidelines on like a
I think when you
3-year.
go out beyond 3 years, it gets tougher.
Because I think we were saying, and we alluded to it in a lot of our comments this year, it's like, oh, we expect this to continue, but we could say, it's like,
Right, but
our 3-year guideline is, yeah, we're gonna have overrides
if
every
we have
year.
a 3-year, maybe we can level out some things, if there's a big lump.
Yeah.
We can see a little bit forward to smooth it,
The
the
other
way we purchase or fund
Yeah.
or whatever.
The other thing I want to use the tool to get away from is this idea that we're gonna cut something to balance the budget this year and we're gonna replenish it in the future. Because it's just not gonna happen. I think our for temporarily when our FinCom reserve was gonna be cut, we were then, I guess we were gonna move to the top of the list to be replenished,
Yeah.
but Gary's been on that list for 2-3 years.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
nothing's getting
Yeah.
replenished.
Yeah,
I just want to get away from the like pushing something to the next year,
Yeah.
because I think that's a dangerous,
I agree.
best of intentions. It's
Yeah.
difficult. There's just no extra money to do
Well,
it.
it's not, yeah. To your point on the
But-
four,
That's the only position that we could have in May, was to kind of cut things
yes,
that are gonna come back, so to speak, or,
or,
but the idea is, what that says is, now is the time to start, and that's where you are, in 28. But now is the time to start, so that when you're doing the stuff for 28, you've already put some things in place. And you've already cleaned up some stuff in January or February, so.
yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
100%.
You're absolutely right. One thing I would say with what you're saying is, I agree, I think we can do lightweight, I think I wanna go deeper than 4 line items. Like, I'd like to see, for the elementary and for Masco and for town, salary line item, a separate salary line item, a separate, 3 or 4 core items that we predict and track on. Because overall salaries, it's pretty easy. They've got contracts. We can apply that number and do a calculation and say it's effectively going to be plus or minus this. And then and you have your maintenance, your expenses, other expenses and things, and maybe it's just salary and other, I don't know, but.
I mean, when we set up the model at the beginning of the year, like this year, we add 1 year and then we just growth assumptions.
Yeah.
There's no reason we couldn't add 3 years.
Yeah, and
then
just add
these are our growth
yeah,
assumptions.
yeah.
It's, if you set it up from the beginning,
Yeah.
it's really no more work. It
Yeah.
wouldn't be as exact, nearly as exact as what Amanda's doing, but it would
You give us,
the direction. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
we're making this change this year. What does it look like in 3 years?
and for example, we know that Masco is starting $400,000 in the hole next year.
Yeah.
Flat out, right, because they lowered their E&D and pulled it out on this year's budget.
And then change management date, they
Yeah.
hit the road.
Yeah.
It's also, how are we going to see the impact on Masco with the change in the enrollment at Essex Tech?
Right,
I
well,
think
that's
we
a
have to be-
calculation.
We have to look at Essex Tech's budget more
Yeah.
closely too. We always just accept it, 'cause
Well-
we're one of 17 communities.
Yeah,
But there needs to be some kind of comparison, like a vertical analysis of foundation and, what each of them is doing in that respect.
I had 2 comments. I agree with everybody's comment on the guidelines. I think we should discuss when we get around to it, trying to get people to adhere more to the guidelines, make it clear if there's any question on the guidelines. The other thing, I don't know if anyone else missed it, but we used to have a tab in the omnibus for over guideline items. I missed it. I don't know. It wasn't in there this year.
no, it hasn't been in there for the last couple of years. We haven't used it. Yeah, 2 years at least.
I missed it.
Because we moved to where we were doing the totals, and I'm not saying one's right or another, we moved away. So the town budget had always been done as, they hadn't been held, right or wrong, they hadn't been held accountable to a total number. They were, your mandatory things were just part of the budget, and it didn't have a material impact up until recently. And then you had individual line items that were over and under guidelines. Here's your guidelines. So you had Mike managed this piece of the process, but you had your contractual, you had your mandatory, and these were things that the 4 columns that every over guideline request
Right.
was part of. And what we went to, but they were given they weren't given an explicit, town wasn't given an explicit number they had to state.
Yeah.
And I think we could
So-
probably I think we could do something to join those 2. Mike,
Yeah.
we can, go ahead,
Yeah,
Mike.
no, I would say, I really like the new model, but then I like the new model that took a lot of friction out of the discussions, right? So you weren't yelling at the police chief about his overtime and stuff like that. You were just like, here's the town, but here's the town over guideline. The part where it got complicated is when it came to constructing the warrant, then we sort of lost it there. There was we never got a base budget out of the whole thing. But
Right. And
Yeah.
that gets to the point which I think there'll be universal agreement in this room on, which is your base budget, and this is, you hit guidelines. And now this is what a guideline services look like and budget, town and function. And by function, I mean how the organization would work at this dollar amount.
Yeah,
And then here's the override where you can get back these things.
it's not a percentage, it's a dollar amount as far as
Yeah.
I'm concerned.
Right.
You know, how you want to split it between all the different departments. It's still, this is the dollars you have to spend.
Okay,
So I think for me, like, I think I have a little bit of, like, I want to understand more what it does from your perspective, because ultimately you are voting your positive action or no action on the whole budget. So sometimes I feel like having that causes somewhat of inefficiencies, because we're so deep on the little lines that we're not like looking at the bigger picture. So I found that like taking that out, like there's been more holistic conversations rather than like, do we think that, I don't know, the accounting office should have another $1,000 for supplies?
Mhm.
Because like when we're creating a budget, we're not necessarily like in that, like we're like bigger picture, like how are we balancing it out? And that kind of goes the same with like the COA might not need, they probably do, but just for example purposes, they might not have a 2.5% increase, but like the police, just based on their like own like contracts, already has like a 3% increase.
Yep.
So then you're like kind of pushing people to have a 2.5% increase that, but they will, you know, like they'll naturally be like, oh, if everyone's getting 2.5, that's what I'm gonna put, you know? But I think I would be curious to understand better kind of like what that overt guideline is really doing for you when you're voting on the overall budget. And like, I feel like it kind of like does bring people into like the details a little too much, where it's like a whole budget here, you know, like by department and stuff.
Well, for me, it was for the four entities, it was, we only have this much revenue that we have to split between all of you. And 11% of it is going to health insurance, because we already know that. Now we have to do the same for pensions, because we know it's going to be more than a percentage, right? So we have to take out the stuff that we know is going to be a lot and then say, all right, the rest, how are we going to divide it amongst those other, the whole entity of the town versus Masco versus Essex Tech versus.
Can I, quick question, I think though, Lisa, I just wanted to confirm, what you're talking about those within each of those four entities, the
Yeah.
level of detail we're getting
Like
to.
you guys were like talking individually about like $1,000 for police
Mhm.
supplies. Like you guys would go through this one by one and like vote on each of them, whether they should be included or not, but like ultimately that's the select board. So then I was kind of confused personally by like what that tab was doing for purposes of you guys. Like maybe at a joint meeting it would make awesome sense, but like I just want to understand to maybe help create something that would work better for you guys
So
for the need.
Mike, you gonna say something?
Well, I'm just kind of going along the line of ideally with the over guideline would be like the way Masco does it, right? Jeff and Mike Harvey used to say, to make guideline, we have to do this, we cut this, and then they discuss it and bring it back. I think that would be the ideal sort of thing. Yes, I do agree with Amanda's point that we were too micro in the department by department thing, but what we went to was too macro in the sense it was, here it is, take it or leave it.
And I think for me, it was also, how did you come up with the override amount? What was driving the fact that you're over guideline, but not by 218,000, it was only 123,000 that you needed to ask for an override, you know, so that was something that was missing. And so I did like a little analysis of, well, this is what we said was the guideline, just by function. And then I said, oh, okay, well, we're over guideline by this amount, not individual departments or individual lines, but by by town budget versus Masco versus Essex Tech versus.
Any other comments on this and what Amanda's saying?
No, I think important for, at least from my perspective, to call out there is new initiatives, not just over guideline. But something that's new, that's out of our guideline, the new program and so forth. So we all know, yes, it's gonna save money or it comes in a different. But I agree, too much micromanagement and it really is not productive either.
So I think if I can, go ahead.
In the case of over guidelines and that, I think you may want to think about the categories and how they handle. And my suggestion would be, unfortunately, that because of where we are with the tech school and essentially have no control over that. I understand essentially no. In mass economic we have, but there we have none. I don't think there's any point in putting it as an override. The select board may decide to put it on an override, even though there's no guidelines, but from our point of view, we should say, we've got to fund that, period.
Yeah.
And then on the Masco side, now that's a different story. On the Masco side, we have to think about how much control we're going to have. Everybody else is going to vote for it, but we don't really know. But you have done a good job, I think, on bringing the three towns together and communicating. So continue to do that and, make some decisions around that as far as whether they're over guidelines. And then the thing, unfortunately, that's left that we have some control over is somewhat the school budget, but then back to our own budget.
Right.
That's all.
So, response to you is, I think what you say I get and understand, and there are areas probably we're digging into deep on some things. Ultimately, what we're trying, each of us has to individually get to a place of, I can stand in front of the community and say, community, I support this budget. And ultimately, you saw this in round 2 in special town meeting, you weren't going to ever get 7. So it was okay. And, where is it that you get a majority that says, okay, this is a place where I can now say, yeah, we should support this and recommend it. Ultimately, that comes to, and you saw it in the special town meeting discussions. Well, I can't support this or this one. We were talking at a detail level on different things and where the cuts were going to be. But there was some that we were all aligned on, which is like the FinCom reserve. And there were some that 3 people are saying no, and 4 people saying, yeah, I can live with that, and just trying to find it. So that's the level. If we stay too high, then we can't get to that. Okay, this gets me comfortable with it. So that's the balance that we need to find.
Yeah, like I was just trying to gauge where you guys were at with it, because I hear that a lot, but then I also don't know that going back to that's the right solution from what I've seen you do here.
Yeah.
But my other recommendation was joint meetings for that reason, because I think you guys have a lot of great comments that maybe don't always get to the select board in time to do, where a more joint conversation could go a lot longer way. They'd see your perspective in the moment and be able to
I think we can share much better financial information with the select board. That's part of this going forward program. I think
that's a really good
we
point.
that's what I have on mind.
Yeah, some stuff gets to us and they're like, oh, why is FinCom having such a problem with this? And it's like,
right.
Why were we talking about this a month ago? We would have pushed back on this from day one.
But in particular, when you look at some of the votes, the select board's 5 in support and we were against it.
Yeah, we're 6-1 against it. Why were we talking about this earlier?
Yeah. So I think that's a good note to have. The one thing I don't think we need to talk about, I'd like to, just anything in the wrap up and running from a FinCom perspective. I will caveat this with, there's 2 comments, which I know we have universal agreement on. We already talked about this. Start with the budget that meets guidelines and then describe what the things are that won't be there with that budget.
In other words, a base
budget that says this is guideline, this is what it means, and here's what the cuts are likely to be.
And that could be presented as a task. They then add any overrides, and we walk out of the town meeting with always having a base budget.
And I think that's a lesson learned. And we'll come to that in a minute. I just wanted, that was one. The other was communication around and explaining a budget, which didn't happen in town meeting one. We're explaining explicitly, if you vote against these things, this is the impact. So we'll talk about those, but for us, FinCom.
Yeah.
Rafi, what
I
else
have one-
would we do?
I have-
Just because- Yeah, I'm
I have
gonna
one
get right to you.
suggestion.
What-
We should get agreement with town what the levy reserve is gonna be.
Okay.
We should agree with the town ahead of time what the levy reserve is gonna be. We've been going at 150, the town's been pushing it to 100.
And it was lower than that, Mike. Right.
It dropped down to 90, but we should have kind of, when we're doing our plan, we should sort of agree to that. We've been sort of
Okay.
dancing over it and it's been worked, but
Yeah,
just get an
that's another one
agreement.
of
Yeah,
That's another
Yeah.
one of those that probably belongs in our policies, which is
yeah,
written and hardened a little bit more in the policies.
Yeah.
Got it.
but yeah, it hasn't been huge. It's been a 50K swing, but
Yeah.
I
still.
can see some situations where it could be a problem.
Well, I think we can't go any lower. I mean, the
Yeah.
reality is, and to go up and to raise it up back to where it was means we have to cut that money out because
Yeah,
you're to your point of, it's not coming back.
if you were on a 3-year view, you'd see that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I looked at the history one year and we ended up with $38,000. So, there was some big upset
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
So you need that buffer.
Was that based on the recap?
I think it was based on Mike or something, I don't know.
On the, I mean, must be a bunch here. All right, going into town meeting and town meeting one, any other things that we as a FinCom?
I thought the venue on town meeting two was particularly good with the projector and the very large screen.
Mhm. Yeah, that was it.
So the whole venue, I think the setup was excellent. I don't know if you could read that screen from the back of the room. I suspect you probably could. That you could.
Yeah, and even if you can't, at least you could get up and walk, but it gave you confidence that things were open.
First time they've done that big screen. We had a little screen before was useless. So that was very, very good.
Our stuff going in, prep for one and for two, any feedback or?
No, I think people did appreciate the vote tracker. What.
Did you get some feedback on that?
Yeah,
I did.
yeah.
No, I didn't hear that.
Some people found it hard to find, but once they found it.
Well, that's a good note. Make the vote
Mhm.
tracker easier to find.
I mean,
Yeah, that was a reflection of the web, they changed it was not intentional, it was just two initiatives going on at the same time. The redo of the website, which someone was doing in addition to their full-time job type of thing.
Right at the end of the budget.
Yeah, but it had been an ongoing thing, and so it hit,
That's good, Heidi, though. And
Yeah.
when those people get more and more used to it, it may get used more and more.
people are paying attention.
That's
Great,
excellent.
great.
Yeah, that's really, the only point I would make, this is the last note I had jotted down when I was thinking about this before, it's just on the education about the materials, how do you get, and I don't know if this is a FinCom thing, it's just a broader statement, it's how do we get the information out there? Because I don't think it happens effectively. There's no newspaper, should Stroll be doing a 1-page thing going into town meeting?
Yeah, what other outlets do we?
There's no other outlets.
Yeah.
I don't know how you get simple graphic out, this is budget.
So I think, let me ask you a question. Do we have a simple graphic that we would want to put out there?
I think we can make one.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have it yet?
No.
Okay, so we have a piece that FinCom can handle and do, which is look at a better explanation graphic.
Yeah, our FinCom letter was good, but I still think the graphics and some of the numbers we need to work on to make them just clear.
Super simple.
Sometimes they're complicated, Heidi.
Yeah.
What was interesting is, I heard from a resident who, was interested in salaries, what the salaries were for select board. And it was like, the omnibus has that detail.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I responded to her and just said, not judging it, but just saying that you're asking a good question. It's been here since January. And it's easily accessible. So I think that that's making sure that there's a page where people can go for the financial information as it's going through.
So,
As the budget process
Yeah.
is going through, it's there. And now maybe people are more interested and will look.
some will, but I think there is a level to what Michael is saying. You know, it's intimidating. Looking at the omnibuses can't be your answer for anything, because, I mean, the reality is that's intimidating, and there's so many levels in that. And simplifying up, and then someone can, once they dip their toes in, then maybe they can get their ankles in and their knees in and get a little bit more detail over time. But if you try to push them in, you know, by saying the omnibus and it's over their head, it's just not gonna work.
So, but this is somebody
Yeah.
who was, I think,
Yeah.
was looking at the salaries and wages line on the warrant
Yeah,
and then saying, but what is it? You know, that's 300,000. What is it?
yeah.
Then you could go in.
That's a good example of next week.
You know what I mean? It's, of course, you know, no one,
No,
That was some comical relief during the second town meeting, though.
yeah. So having said all that, I'm gonna be a little bit of a pessimist here and say, I think there is some stuff we can do to make some simpler graphics and some simpler things and a few things. But let me be blunt, we have an an intentionally uninterested community. And it sucks for me to say that, but we have tried to put information out there. And we have probably 100 or 200 people that read it. I can guarantee you that while we got positive comments about the tracker, I would be shocked if more than 50 people have opened the tracker.
Oh, 50, I was like 20.
Yes, but the point I'm trying to make is part of our problem, a big part of our problem is that we don't, you know, there are 3,000, almost 3,000, 2,500 voters in this community. Or 3,000, I think it is, or more than that. No, it's 3,504. And, you know, a good election for town stuff gets us 1,500 of them. And we talk about going to all these meetings. And so I say this to say, yes, we can continue to find some things to make it a little easier for people to find material, to get it.
it's a lot.
But at the end of the day, I do truly think part of us has to be a message of, part of your responsibility as a citizen is to do your research as well. And it's not, you know, and I don't think that hasn't been being said.
The most direct item we have is the FinCom guideline letter. That goes to everybody.
Well, that goes to the administration, to the town and to the.
You're talking about our final.
I'm sorry,
Our
the
final-
FinCom.
our final
warrant.
Warren, yes.
Yeah.
But okay, what do you think the over under is on the number of people that read that?
I'll bet 500 people read it.
You think 500?
Yeah, my neighbors did.
I don't think so.
They asked me questions.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Which is great.
And I hope that number is 500,
I don't know,
but that's still.
everybody's shaking their head. I'm optimistic.
Agreed, but the point is, that's 1/8 of the voting population.
Yeah, we
So-
tried to address it, remember? We tried to make it more attractive. We
Yeah.
changed that
Yeah.
the title. But I think if we keep doing that, I don't see another.
Well, I think the vocal piece that we ought to be doing is associated, and that's why I was intentionally somewhat inflammatory in what I just said, or at least for me, what would be considered inflammatory. But is that I think it's time for people to get a little bit of a wake-up call that this isn't, complain about other people doing and what they did or didn't do. You own a responsibility to be involved in this. And I think it's, you know, go ahead, Mike, and then.
So Chair, I kind of agree with your assessment, and all I'd sort of say is, that's why it's important to be able to get a out of town meeting with at least a 2.5% budget. So, you know, we could do it once.
And that's the thing is 2.5 seems like such a solid number that when I hear people say that you're mismanaging the funds because you're not staying within 2.5, I wonder which rate shall we use? Because
Yeah.
chapter 70 says that benefits should rise 8.5%, and
Yeah.
there's a
So
state and
Heidi-
local government spending that's 2.76%. So,
Yeah, I wasn't advocating 2.5% budget. I just meant get out of town meeting with one budget that passes and then, the overrides. I just don't, I don't like this too.
No, I agree with you that we have to live with what Prop 2.5 sets as a limit, because up after that, we have to ask people, right? But one of the things too, I've been trying to do, based on what people have said, is try to do a comparison between communities. And I was thinking, okay, so do I look at communities on the North Shore that are 6,000 people and I bring them together? Where do I get the data? I went on to DLS. They have the numbers are all over the place. It's so hard to gather information. Maybe.
But to focus on the point, then to focus the point down, what we were talking about here was the education, giving materials to people that they're able to consume, and we have a responsibility there. And then we're to add it, and then I threw in the piece about, but people need to step up, and we need to hold people. In my mind, we need to hold people to stepping up, to actually reading the stuff. And the response is, if you're not looking at it, then I'm sorry. You need to go look at it.
Do we have Google Analytics or anything like that on our website?
No.
We
No.
did.
Yeah.
Just curious.
Yeah. That would
We
be
can answer
interesting.
some of the questions. How many people?
That'd be interesting to see that.
I guess the only point I would push back on you, Shay, is I don't think it'll change people's level of engagement. I think that's unrealistic. And the biggest point for that is we had 2 seats up for election for school committee this year, and only 1 person ran. Like literally, you couldn't even get someone unopposed, like volunteer for a committee. So I'm not optimistic. The only point I would make is I think we gotta, you just have to get the information to people. I don't think it's changing like how we write the letter. I think it's gotta be a different medium.
Yeah.
Which is like why I mentioned strolls. Like that goes to every house in this town every month. Like, should there be a full page on FinCom every month? Like, that's a bit extreme, making a point.
Or just town event
I
or
think you
something.
have to get the information in front of people, because I don't think they're gonna go look for it.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
You
All
used to
right.
get that in the newspaper.
Well, we can get into that more. I also want to, how do you say it?
Yeah.
But, because what is it that gets people's attention?
Yeah.
It's gonna be over 2.5.
Tax bill.
That gets people, and it just goes to their house. They don't go looking for it, right? It's gotta. Yeah.
Okay, wrapping up here. So we got some good information there. From a town, I think we have unanimous agreement here that the 2 important things that we talked about, one is base budget that meets guidelines. And what does that look like? What does that look like? And then what services would be added back, and that's what it really is, added back. With any overrides. Right? That's also the only way, and the way STM went is the only way that we never have to do an STM again for a failed override. Is by you approve the base budget.
That's correct.
Which is effectively what, we did it differently this time, but it's effectively what we did, which was we approved a budget that said anything override is going to go over here. The difference would be that at town meeting, if you said, I approve the base budget and then I approve the override request, you have an added opportunity for the override to be stopped, which is fine. Just like the way this was structured, you had to say, yes, I accept going to the town, to the election to decide on whether we're going to have an override or not. Town meeting the way this was voted, had no, unless it was altered, had no ability to reject the override at town meeting. Correct.
But what was interesting is there was an opportunity for people to hold and talk about certain. And there was none. Because again, it's detail that, they figured they would go to the ballot and vote no.
It's different crowds too. I mean, smaller,
The one thing about having to go to a special town meeting, is something like economics.
Mhm.
Because that's not in A, it's not in 3, it's not
Right.
in attachment A, it's not in a column.
Right.
It's possible to put something like, it wouldn't make any difference, because we're really dependent upon what's happening with the
Yeah.
other ones, and.
That's a very fair point.
So we're exposed on that one,
Yes, you're very fair point.
and in that case, it's almost like being somewhat realistic at times and saying, you know, we're not gonna win that one, so.
Yeah, so then it would be kind of like what ended up happening, which is, you're absolutely right. You know, it's a very fair point. It needs to be, I'm gonna take a note on that. If the
It's just an exposure that, yeah, you always have to have in the back of your mind. I remember one year when we failed at Masco override, and I came in, as soon as I came the next morning, and I said to Jenna, get to, what was his name, in Middleton.
Oh, yeah.
He was hoping that ours would go down, because his was gonna
Go down, yeah.
And it wasn't, and it said, get there right away, he's gonna.
Yeah.
He has the plan.
Yeah, he's gonna-
immediately.
Yeah, okay. All right, so those were the two things of the, what else from a town perspective do we think this past year we could have, should have, would have? Not from FinCom, we've talked about that. And we've already talked about from a town perspective, the two, which universal agreement on changing the base budget plus and continued education and the impacts of overrides. I'm not.
Well, Dick, are you saying though that for Masco, let's say we coordinate with the other 2 towns, and maybe they'll need an override, or maybe they wouldn't need an override. Are you suggesting that we not have an override if the other 2 towns are most likely gonna pass it and absorb it in?
Not necessarily, no, but we're forced to try to do the override, and we may get the override, and people work, but the point is understand that we are almost always exposed when there's the Masconomet override.
Right.
Unless the other vote
Yeah.
also that way.
Yeah.
We're almost always exposed to a separate, special town meeting to resolve the fact, if we lose the Masco, to then come back and fight with our own budget in that.
Right.
4 weeks, so we come out with a special.
And that would be one where it would be, well, when we get to that, we have to think
We
about that.
haven't-
Yeah,
The issue, the good news is we haven't had
Had it.
failed overrides in the past.
yeah. But, okay, anything else from a town perspective, you know, in the town is just in general. You know, whether it's town administration, schools, elementary, community, any part, is there anything else that we need to note or address?
The only thing I would say on the overrides, and I understand why we don't do it, because we still don't know the answer. If you're gonna have an override, you gotta say what it's for
Yeah.
with some specificity. And I don't accept that we can't do that, because we can't. We just have to come in earlier. And I think we could start in September, know we're gonna have an override, and then I'd start identifying the things, because that was the question that everybody asked, is what is in these overrides? And I don't think anybody had an answer. Right?
Certainly I will absolutely agree in annual town meeting, and in special town meeting, it was still very fuzzy. I mean,
Was it?
for us, I think we had heard, but no one was willing to put it on paper. We had heard what the cuts were likely to be.
But I don't think anybody in the town did.
Right, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
we
No,
asked. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember asking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know it's difficult because the budgets are the department heads. I know why it's hard, but I
Yeah.
think we gotta get over that hardship.
agreed. Well, and I will say, not having it, actually, if you want to you have a better chance of getting an override passed if you have that.
I think it hurt us on the overrides.
I think if you don't have that, then it's a real easy decision. Some amorphous, I can vote for some amorphous services that I have no idea what they are, or I can vote to have my taxes less.
Yeah.
They don't understand it.
Yeah.
Why am I gonna go for?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a great point.
Right?
That's a great point. All right. Okay, so those were some of the things from 2027. That was a great 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But thank you. No, it's great. It was a great conversation. I'll collect these notes and I'll do something. 2028, I'm gonna hijack the meeting for a second and try and shorten it for us so we can actually go home. I believe that coming out of select board in the next 2 weeks will be a drive to, okay, let's get together and start talking about this.
With FinCom.
Well, I believe select board's gonna start that. I believe, I have some certainty that they're gonna do that. I believe, less certainty, but believe that FinCom's going to be part of that process. You know, we can't, I would have liked, as I said at the start, I would have liked that we came in today knowing that it was happening, going to happen, but I understand why it couldn't yet have been formulated and planned. There wasn't it's almost certainly a different chair this year than it was this past year. There isn't, the structure isn't there yet, wasn't there. And they were focusing on funding getting through this and approving and the direction of what happens. So, didn't happen. The items that in my conversations with a couple of select board members that I thought and shared that I thought would be a good place for us to start is there's a whole slew of questions out there about, are we, what is our growth, our increases been year over year for the town versus the schools? Where's the growth been? Are we the most expensive tax town in the community? Are we the second? Understand, what is these cheaper towns around us that are like us? What are they doing differently? Do they have trash service? Do they not? Looking and starting to collect all that sort of data is, I think, step one in this process. I think there's a whole range of this type of data that we need to assess. And in 3 weeks or 4 weeks, when we get called into let's go, the more we have of that, the better we can manage the conversation with the select board or with others forward. And so I think my suggestion to everyone is that we discuss it here and pick a few areas, and we as individual members go hunting for that set of information, whether it's tax information, whether it's services that towns provide, or it's comparing sets of towns and what their budgets have done recently over the years. This gives us the information that tells us, oh, here's somewhere areas and services, towns that are doing something different. Why? Let's dig into it. Why has Georgetown only gone up by, I don't know, whatever they did, or something?
Bad.
Yeah, I know. No, I know.
I mean, do you guys have a list of comparables you use?
Yes, we have communities that we have identified as comparables. The list
Yeah.
is a little outdated,
Yeah.
but I can only send you what.
Yeah, what those communities are, just so we have a whole across the board.
Yeah.
Because that is super important.
Yes.
So I think, to your point, right, like come up with some ideas, what are the other communities doing, how they addressing it, and then just reach out to those cities or communities and see what they're doing.
And dig into it, and there's a lot of public information. One thing here, this is not me saying, hey, let's all come up with ideas and ask Amanda. Right? This is us doing the work, because frankly, Amanda has to close the year end and close everything and put the books. There's some information like what you just did that, okay, let's get the list that they have, and then it's us doing it. I think this isn't what I would have liked us to be doing right now. I would have liked us to be consolidating, conforming in a group that's organized with the select board and everybody. I do truly believe that's gonna happen. I think that's gonna happen.
I think that's the only way we can get the best result.
Yeah.
I think we both have, it's their authority, but I think we have in-depth knowledge on some of the finances and people with the history. That can really work.
It's, how am I think I've said this one to you guys, but if you ever play poker with me and I bet, just fold. I am a rock better. I don't bet unless I know I've already won.
That's a good one.
And so the point is that I think I know what's gonna happen, but I don't know what's gonna happen with select board or how that's gonna go. So you're hearing me couch things in ways that are less than confident, I know.
If we have a chance, I'd go through a lot of my questions. I took a lot of time because I don't have a job anymore.
You saw it, it's up here, we're gonna come to that. So from 28 thing, for FY 2028, what, as we're going into that and starting this, and how do we start looking at this stuff? What are some of the data points that we need to do? And let me pull up.
I'll say, Shane, it's basically like you read my notes. I had the exact same call to action for us.
Nice.
Because if we hear this, that the tax rate is second highest, again,
Yeah,
it's not a relevant data.
So I've gone on to DLS and done community comparisons. The only thing I have for fiscal year 25,
yeah,
general
because,
government, police, fire,
Yeah,
public safety, education, blah, 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 blah.
Right, I did too, I couldn't get much for 2025.
It's,
Right.
yeah, it's very hard to compile information. It's
Dave-
all over the place.
David put this together.
Wonderful. And you share that with me when you get.
Yes,
It speaks to my own, do other towns put out the same sort of omnibus that we do?
They have budgets, but the line items could be different.
yeah,
Okay.
the
I've
structural
tried to
organization could be
look
different,
before,
right?
it's like to see if I could find something. Very
Okay, because the question I'd love to answer is that, I mean, that was what we heard all throughout both town meetings. We have the super high tax rate, yada, yada, yada. I think that's irrelevant, but
Right.
anything. But the question we gotta answer is, are we doing more things? Are we doing things just in a more expensive fashion? Or are we doing the same things and we're just spreading it across fewer households?
Yeah.
I think it's the third.
So
Because I think my wife sent me this real estate clipping. I don't know where she got it, somewhere on the internet. That's like, in the last 12 months, average house sold in Topsfield, $880,000. Average house sold in Boxford, 1.25 million.
Mhm.
They can have a much lower tax rate because their houses are more expensive.
Right, it's
But I
not
think the
real,
average
it's-
person in Boxford pays more in taxes.
So that's the analysis that,
The rates are relevant.
I want to look more at the cost of the budget. Not how, not then how it translates, first, not how it translates into a tax amount. Because we want to see whether our costs are so out of line with other budgets.
well, and that's a perfect example. So, and I think there's two things there that both have value.
Right,
Yours has value in the dialogue that's happening out
Right.
there.
right.
I think we gotta be able to answer the question
Yes,
because
yes.
we're gonna keep getting them.
Yeah.
And there's a few data points, we could have a real answer.
Yeah.
And it would hopefully stop the question.
So commercial properties
So-
versus households versus,
What I was thinking, God's honest truth, was go find I was thinking, pick our comparable cities, towns. Go find the median price house in each one of those towns, take a picture of that house and what their taxes are. Total tax. No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
This is an average house, this much land, this is their tax. If you compare that for each of the towns, that's what you live in this community, that's what the town you pay for taxes, for the median house. It then changes the conversation to something that is about, okay, the services I get for the dollars I spend. Right? So, take a house, the median is this price, not hard to go on and look and see, this is, what their taxes were last year. I mean, problem is, you're gonna be a year behind, because all the information is a year old.
I don't think it changes the analysis though.
Yeah.
But I think something like that would be useful to do that as a way to move that conversation. That's the conversation though that gets us, the conversation that gets us really going is the fact that, wow, Boxford is this much more or less. Georgetown is this much more or less in their operating expenses for police, for fire, for this.
Yeah.
Well, why? What are the services they get? What are the things they don't? And translate into how we operate as a town.
Yeah, even at a high level, it's like, oh, and Boxford just, I think we gotta be very careful in picking the towns. Everybody's like, oh, our city's not Middleton. I was like, not a good comp. But it's just totally different. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't have 114 running through us with
Right.
Market Basket Plaza.
Agreed.
But there are other very small towns.
Yeah.
I mean, Hamilton, Wenham, again, also different in other ways, but more similar.
Yeah.
Probably no commercial based, but I think it would be eye-opening for people to see. It's like, oh, we have this high tax rate, but oh, these towns that have lower tax rates actually spend more on fire and police in town than we do. Because I think in Boxford, that would actually be the case in many areas.
So
They have lower tax rate, but spend more on a lot of things.
So I agree, but I think there are some they don't, like fire, for example, but it's doing that
Fire's a big
comparison.
example, but They do.
But doing that comparison is an important part of this. So identifying those numbers. And to your point, agreed, but let's face it, Boxford and Middleton have to be part of our comps. They have to be, because the dialogue, we can explain out why, but if you don't have them as the comps,
Yeah, yeah,
the Masco conversation just,
yeah, I would just say
Right.
Middleton's a little over 9,000 people or 6,500. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think if you're gonna include one that's 50% bigger, then you gotta include the ones that are 50% smaller too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Mike, you were trying to say something.
No, I'm just sort of agreeing. I think the comps would be good, and I think it'd be very interesting, and I'll leave it at that. So I think Boxford's a very intriguing example to compare us to.
Yeah. So some of the data that we did bring up, and I'm putting this on, oh shoot, what did that just happened?
Sorry, doc.
How'd I do that? There we go.
You're upgrading my document.
Yeah, I'm just adding a note since we're already on that document.
Yeah, it is.
Data to address tax rates, revenue. Let me do it this way.
You know, that's good, but the general perception, all the taxpayers, was very clear. We pay too much taxes, so.
Well, that was gonna be another question I wanted to identify. Are people specifically upset with the absolute amount of taxes or the rate of increase? Is how you address those things is very different.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point.
Identify
Because I don't think we'd actually, it's very difficult to change the rate of increase because like you're not gonna change health insurance. Like taxes are gonna go up. But if
So
you,
we can
cut-
slow it down though.
well, you're not gonna slow health insurance,
Structural
probably,
changes.
but you could slow it down.
Yeah.
So I ultimately, I agree with you. Something I'm going to make a comment though. At the end of the day, we only pay for two things. We pay for some materials and we pay for people.
It's all people.
That's it. So the inherent in this is we can restructure, and I agree, we can find some operational efficiency and things. The savings comes with reductions in force,
Right.
which is okay. That's part of the reality and what we need to do. But the flip side of that is that do we think that there is a material significant change by reducing resources in the town or in the school or in the community that wouldn't result in a change in services? Translate it, let me say it differently.
Yeah,
I have suspicion that there is limited places where we can cut people and keep all of the same services that we currently have.
Agreed. Probably limited, but maybe some of the service reductions, people are willing to take.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I asked the question.
Yeah.
People, what would you be willing to give up? I can't get an answer. And I've tried it repeatedly.
Yeah, Dickie Williams.
Let me give an example of what might be.
Yeah.
We may have already done. That would improve, not only reduce our costs, but improve the services that we provide. And that is the scheduling of fields. I don't know where we are with that now. I'm only trying to use
Yeah.
this as an
Yep.
example
Yep.
to your
Yeah.
question about
Yeah.
where we're going, we do things. But I believe that we've gone to a computerized system
Mhm.
that through numbers looks at what's available, the people who are authorized.
Yeah.
Because you're allowed to buy field time, you're allowed whatever they
Yeah.
are, they've done their paperwork, they go in and they actually schedule it with a hands-off approach on the part of a person. That's labor savings
Yes.
on not just the town's part, but also on the customer part. They would much rather do that than submit some paper and a check and whatever.
Yeah.
So I think those kinds of things might go on.
So
I was,
the one thing on that, absolutely agree. It's no savings at all until you cut the person, right?
Yeah.
That's what the administration here needs to say.
but it may not be simply.
Yeah.
The person, that person may freed up,
Yeah.
may do something else.
Yeah.
I'll give another example.
But then
And
you-
these things came.
But, so at some point, the net result is, and it may free up some here, but the net result is you have to, at some point, somebody gets cut, which is, That's fine. I'm not saying that is a,
Not necessarily you cut it, maybe attrition too. I don't know.
very fair, very
So
fair, very fair.
Want to be careful there.
Yeah,
Really, but yes.
yes,
Labor is where the money is. That's where the retirement is.
yes.
That's where the
Pensions are,
healthcare is.
healthcare.
That's where the check every 2 weeks
Yeah.
is.
Yes,
Yes.
I'll tell you what,
Okay, I want to do one other example though, that might be. Because this already came up. How much time do we spend doing minutes? I was talking with Bob, Metz. And
Yeah.
Bob said, it's the volunteers that do the minutes. So, no real savings. Well, maybe that's, I think, maybe that's the Board of Health, okay? But not Samantha.
Yeah.
And not the planning board.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happens if AI
Yep.
helps you do your minutes and do it specifically for Samantha?
Yep.
Instead of spending 4 hours a week on average
Yep.
doing the minutes, it's only an hour because 3 hours. So what is that 3 hours available for? Well, we need somebody to do digital.
right, and we won't have,
whatever.
or we,
That's one of the things on the
yeah,
thing.
and, or, yeah,
can I make a
So
suggestion?
those are the things that can happen. Yep, next.
I'll go through my ideas here.
yeah.
No discussion, no deliberation. I'm just throwing them out.
And put them out there and then we can go through it. I appreciate
My
that.
basic approach here was, I'm very concerned about the next year budget, FY 28. I think we're gonna be in the same situation again. Therefore, my suggestion, I sent this to Che for initial consideration, was what should we do now? And so before you have a major program, I find it's critical to do a couple of things. One, develop goals in your approach. That's what I've got some ideas below. Start collecting cost reduction ideas, but do not deliberate on them. Just collect them. I've had all sorts of people coming to me with ideas. A lot of them I just typed up the way they gave them to me. I didn't try to make a judgment or anything. And the third thing, which Che just,
Oh,
all right, I got a copy.
assign core functions.
Yeah, I was assuming we would be at the point where we already had agreement to work with the
Yeah,
select board, but assign core functions such as maintaining the files and data.
Mhm.
Where are we gonna collate all these ideas? Okay? The goals. And this will just start some controversy, I'm sure, in discussions, but avoid overrides in FY 28 next year. Stretch goal could be for all 4 budgets, the town and the schools, cumulatively, to avoid overrides for 3 years. That could be an aggressive stretch function. So you get a spending increase of about 3%,
Mhm.
3.1 with the growth. Final draft of potential items to be completed by December 2026. This would be the first phase, so you'd be able to use some of these items, in the FY 28 budget. That was the thought here. Some of these obviously aren't gonna work. Build up levy capacity with spending reductions in the town budget to be able to absorb any mandatory increases above Prop 2.5 guidelines. For example, health insurance, Essex Tech. We don't have a choice on some of that. Reduce measurable spending by $500,000 minimum in the town. Set the target together with the school committee for elementary, so get an agreed upon target. If you don't have a target, you're all over the place. It's like a shotgun. Communicate to the residents periodically that we, the town, the FinCom and the select board, heard them and we're doing something, whatever that is, a letter, email, so forth. The guidelines, focus on real spending reductions, not budget assumptions.
This is, yeah, we had this as a, yeah. Okay,
Yeah, I
good.
know, I got that from you.
Yeah. No,
Priority is essential services, not level services. People still use the term maintain level services. Well, times change. You don't want to keep doing the same thing. You shift, you do something different, better. So I think a better term for us, and we put it in our letter, is essential services. include all departments for spending reductions, the town and the 3 schools. Not that we can do much about Essex Tech,
Mhm.
but we can get somebody aggressively as our rep to start stirring things. That would be a longer term.
Yeah.
I wouldn't just roll over and play dead with them.
Yeah.
Evaluate all spending for potential reductions. In other words, look at everything. This includes everything in the budget, benefits, property insurance, charging stations, virtually everything that flows through the budget. A lot of them, you may take a quick look and say, no, forget it. But just start it. Set priorities. Total potential savings and the estimate of what can be achieved. What's achievable? We could have a huge potential saving, but the chance of getting it done is limited. Time to begin the saving. Give a priority for the nearer term so we can start using it to buffer next year. Impact on town services and impact on employees. So those would be my thought of some of the priorities. Combine the spending areas as defined by the omnibus to create 6 or 8 manageable groups. And this was just a number I thought about. We could have groups that are working on different functions, independent groups. And if you have 6 or 8 of them, they'd be able to cover everything. The elementary school could be one group. Masco could be a group, but town hall could be a group. Just a thought to try to organize it and get it going in a direction.
Are you talking about the liaisons or?
No, just an independent group to look for structural changes, cost reductions, et cetera, to really dig into it.
Like 2 or 3 people.
Yeah. Consider and minimize employee impacts. Somebody brought this up. For example, headcount reduction, we could say, okay, is it going to be over 6 months? Then we can do it through attrition rather than having to lay somebody off. So be sensitive to that. Select board to review all contracts, both union and employees in detail, not just sign them. Select board to deliberate on any requests for any employee hires. This would be a replacement, to see if there was any way we could consolidate with other resources, avoid rehiring somebody.
So in effect, a hiring freeze. And which with the relief,
With the select board release, yeah. I guess what I'm saying is I'd like to see the select board more actively involved, and then they understand too a little bit better. I had another one in there that when we look at employee costs, it's a fully burdened cost.
Yeah.
In the last, create a form to summarize each proposal that's brought forward. If we think it's a good idea, shouldn't we have a simple standard form for any cost savings? So those are some of the ideas. I have a separate page for cost saving ideas. But to me, this is critical that it be organized up front. And that's why I just sent it to Chase so he could work with some of the select people first to see which way we're going. And rip it apart, that's fine, but I wanted to get something started.
Yeah, principle, I think it's great. It's great, yeah.
Was this the other one you meant?
No, that's
Okay.
a long one. That was an AI generated one.
Okay.
But saving and efficiency improvement ideas, I got right here.
Okay.
And I can send you a copy.
Yeah, send it over. Why don't you send it over and we can share it across to everyone.
We have to communicate this somehow to the select board too.
That's
I mean,
right.
the process is it is important, I can see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
The
So-
data is good, it doesn't hurt to have all this data.
The data is meant to be as a step in this, not
Yeah.
have, yeah.
We can almost go on parallel while the process starts, and then the process is.
I agree. I also, so I will be talking with the select board. And this is where. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I will be we have one more last thing to do. And technically, if we do that, then I'm not the one that's supposed to be talking to the select board. But I really want to do that because I want to move this process forward. The summer chair thing, you know, technically at that point, I'm not the chair.
You should have it now, Chad.
I want, I don't want to, okay, all right, we'll figure this out. Give me a minute. My goal here, like I said, is that I'm not running away from FinCom anytime soon, but we need to make sure we have a bench of people that can do and run it. And this is part of that process. Anyway, my intent is that
No. The summer chair doesn't necessarily have to be the one coordinating this program either, Jay.
so technically, the way it's set up, understood. The summer chair is you can't have two heads. You really can't.
A lot of people do.
Yeah, I know. But they have two faces, not two.
Yeah.
But you can't have two heads. And this is something where it's important to kind of just do that. So I'm torn on what we do here. And I know what Catherine would say is, Jay, you got to go. But anyway.
Okay, I sent you 2 emails.
Yeah.
And I'll go through it with the same, no questions allowed.
Okay. So, but before we get to that, it's time, because we're at time, approaching time. One way or the other, we will talk with the newly constructed leads of the select board. And get an approach that is moving this forward. Ultimately, we can push their steering. Just because of the role and what it is. If they're not steering, our pushing is not going to, you know, and so I want to take this and sit with whoever that is and offer some suggestions and ideas, and then come back and see where they want to go with it, where we're at. And in the meantime, my thought was, while we're trying to do that, getting and collecting some of this data is something we can be doing.
Right.
That's making progress. It's not the best piece, but it's the best we can do right now.
I don't know about anybody else, but I found a lot of people, quite a few people came to me and want to help. They really want to get engaged. I got some ideas, and one of them I took down the notes. I spent an hour and a half with one person. They just wanted to share thoughts and ideas. So I found it very positive.
Okay.
You know, instead of people carping and complaining,
It's wonderful.
it is.
Yeah.
That's what the groups can do too, very well, is communicate with the people that want to. I know about retirements, I'll talk with you about.
Yeah.
Whatever the case may be.
Well, along those lines, Chad, I saw one email, there was a group on Facebook, I think, Heidi, you said it. They were looking to form
Yes.
a group to look into revenue increases. Great. How are you gonna structure it and how does that feed back to the select board and FinCom? So.
Yeah. All appreciate all there. The challenge to it that has to figure it out is making sure that these groups are aligned in, not necessarily in the direction they're going, not in, oh, we should cut or tax or not, but in terms of we're all pulling together.
Correct.
To get the data and the facts that we need to come up with a solution.
A little bit.
Mike, yours.
I'm good. My daughter was coming in the room, so.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
These are just some ideas I put down. Restart the highway, parks and cemetery and water commissions. We had elected commissions before. This would bring back the expertise that the department heads, they've told me they miss it. And it'll also free up the town administrator from some of those functions. Outsourcing, are there any other functions we should evaluate for outsourcing? Example, Pine Grove Cemetery lawn maintenance seems like it's worked very well. So just a thought. Department heads not residing in town hall for 1 month. record all the visits to town hall, reasons, the total time for the trip, and the time talking to town hall personnel. The goal here would not be to criticize them, but to look for opportunities to automate so they didn't have to come to town hall. And you'll see one later here. The purchasing invoicing system is still primarily paper. They have to bring the paper, right? Yeah. Operational improvements, AI. Could we assign one person, who's a techie, not me, but somebody to begin to utilize AI? I've seen some of the results. It's pretty amazing what it can do. One town uses AI, for example, to draft all their legal documents. And they send it to KMP only for the final review. And I'm certainly not an expert on this, but it's a concept. We'll let somebody younger who's really into this, good at it. I've talked about this for years. Munis apparently has a module for digital purchasing. In other words, digitize the whole purchasing process.
That comes at a cost too, though, Dave.
Yeah, well, you'd have to evaluate whether the savings and so forth, but there's a lot of benefits to that, I would think, and accuracy would help too. Charging station, review the rate charged versus the cost. I don't think we've checked that, Dick, in 4 or 5 years. I mean, you did the original work, huh?
We did like last week.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Last week?
We're like break even, pretty much.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
good. So we cross that
Take
off.
that one off.
Yeah. Well, the question could be at that point, should we be break even or should it be a profit center? Right? I'm not saying it should, I'm just saying, that'd be part of your analysis and discussion. It's a service. Should it be something that
These
we
were
take
just
a risk and
ideas I came up with. Purchasing, process efficiency. For example, can the highway department use a town credit card? Would that be more efficient? Does that raise other issues? I have no idea. Because, in the company I worked, a lot of people had credit cards. It was controlled, but they had credit cards for smaller purchasing, staples and all of that business. The library, everybody tells me Boxford is a big user of our library, really good. Well, can we recover some of the costs from Boxford? Or should we form a regional library with more shared costs? Just off the wall thoughts.
It's true.
Huh?
It's true. I came to the Topsfield Library my entire life growing up in Boxford.
Yeah.
why?
It's a nicer library.
Is it?
It was like brand new when I was a little kid.
Okay.
The other
It's just a nicer
email I
library.
sent you another check. I should have it.
Right here.
Yeah, I'm looking for my copy.
Georgetown joining Masco.
Well, this was a person that
Okay.
I think that's sort of.
I sat down for an hour and a half with, just wanted to share ideas, long-term town resident. Georgetown joining Masco. Masco, how can we utilize the excess capacity? With all of the headcount reduction at Masco, there should be some unused space. Thinking out of the box, I have no idea. Should this be for special needs? A section of it, I don't know. Elementary schools.
Upstairs.
Staff support below the principal should be evaluated for savings. Can we streamline that? Tri-Town Council. This is somebody else I'm just writing down what they said. Tri-Town Council was about 28,000 cost. They thought the Tri-Town did very, very good work that benefits Topsfield. So that was their input. Are there any outside organizations, Boys and Girls Club, that could fill in for reduced resources maybe we have somewhere else? Are there some full-time jobs that could be split into 2 part-time? In other words, get rid of all the benefits. Can we make health insurance, probably getting in trouble on this one. Can we make health insurance
They could pay us more.
less attractive than private health company health insurances? This next one, I'm not sure it's legal, but they said that some towns charge for school bus fees.
So you can do it over, you're legally mandated, I think it's 2 miles.
Yeah.
I think it's 2 miles away, you're legally mandated from the school to transport, but within 2 miles, you can charge. I believe it's 2 miles, or it used to be.
As long as you have sidewalks or
Yeah.
safe
That's
access.
safe access, yeah.
Their comment was, the buses at Stewart School are almost empty.
Well, I mean, that doesn't mean they couldn't reduce the bus by another bus or two and have a 45-minute drive for those kids. I'm not encouraging it. I mean, there's two different, the levers there. I'm not encouraging either of them, but I'm
Probably
just,
get into a hell of a problem if you have parents carpool.
That's
with the
already,
kids.
it's already a nightmare.
that's right.
Interesting, they said the same thing, return to independent highway, parks and
Okay.
cemetery and water commissions.
With
You know-
your volunteer.
Yeah, these are elected people. They have their expertise. The water, for example. One of the previous members was the head of the water department at Cambridge, Mass. So he brought all of that expertise to work with Greg. I guess one of the things I think we could utilize a lot better is the tremendous skills we have in this town. How we do it, I don't know. This town has got amazing skills and capable people. And here, head of water for Cambridge. Tom, you don't get much better insight than that.
Yeah.
Well, you could be Haverhill's water. Oh, wait. sorry,
Yeah,
Ruined my whole
Stewart.
July weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
Uh,
that's what I've been doing to try to
okay.
start things,
So I appreciate it. I do want to, I'm going to share all this stuff out. We'll share it all out and then start thinking it through. The actionable items right now really are to try and get us to some of these numbers while we're doing this and moving us, while we're trying to work with the boards. I don't know if there's anything people want to take up and go and explore. Thoughts, or it's also perfectly fine to say, I worked my ass off on my highly paid volunteer position. It's been a tough year and I need a month off.
Well, Amanda just sent us the comparable communities.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to take a look at that and decide like these are the 10 we wanted to use. But after we do that, after we figure out the communities you want to survey, what do we want to ask these communities? I'm glad to take a lead on reaching out to a lot of these communities. I know a lot of these town managers, administrators in a lot of these towns that I can reach out to directly.
that's great.
So I'm glad to take the lead
Do you
on
think
that.
we need to, Tom, compared to what's available publicly?
Well,
Well, it depends on what we're asking for, I guess, right?
That was my next one. I think it'd be super important to establish specifically what information we want.
Yeah,
We could spend a ton of time looking at information,
Yeah.
but it's almost like we need a template and then, everybody
Yeah.
grab a town and fill out the columns for that town.
Yeah, that's definitely, I think that's the next step after figuring out, do we want these 10 communities? Then we got to figure out the list of questions or list of information that we want from these communities, and then figure out where we get that information from. So,
That's where that AI report, Jay, that was somebody generated for me.
Yeah.
And it really was, how do you structure, a committee to look into structural changes and so forth? It was like 12 or 15 pages.
Yeah.
But they had, Tom, very specific benchmarks in there, exactly what you're saying, things
Yeah.
like that.
yep, yeah.
Highway dollars per mile,
Yeah.
things like that, so.
You can
I mean,
get,
there's an ideal set of metrics. I don't know if we're gonna be able to drill down on
right.
the ideal,
But I think, so this is what we had discussed earlier, which is identify the comparable communities, which is my top. I just had it, where'd it go? That would be the considered ones, possibly, but we'll come back to that in a second. Then it was the tax rate, the whole tax rate thing. We were
Gotta
at
show
that.
what it.
It's the collecting and getting the town's school budgets. Broken out by head count, salary. What else?
Number of students.
Numbers, students.
Household.
Yeah, we're gonna have to know number of households across town. Because you're gonna have to do this all by student or household, right?
Yeah.
To compare it.
Salary, so, sorry, let me take this one out, because that's all the criteria are associated with the community. And then,
I guess I would think, go like thinking through our town, like through the omnibus, it's by sort of function and I don't know,
Yeah.
departments and functions. Basically want to know the total cost for each, I don't know, function across these other towns, I guess but I don't know what the denominator
So
is.
DLS has total expenditures and it breaks it down by general government, public safety, it breaks it down by all that stuff.
but what's the most recent year in
25.
FY 25?
But every town
Which
probably
means-
just had a town meeting. I mean, I feel pretty confident we can find this information.
Yeah.
Right?
Most of these towns have their budgets right on their website.
I know
right?
it's annoying to do, but
Yeah.
I was thinking like dividing up
Mhm.
a town or two by person.
Yeah,
Cause I think it's annoying, but it's not annoying to do once.
right.
It's just not as specific as you'd like, cause like we do this all the time for like comp surveys and stuff, and like, it's really hard to know, like, what are you making in Boxford, like.
But I guess the level I'm thinking of, all I wanna know is like, what is the total police budget in Boxford? And like, and how many residents live there? Like,
Mhm.
what do you spend on police per
Yeah.
resident? And like, we'll see that metric, there'll probably be a huge range, and then we'll ask the second level question is like,
So is it
well,
capita, is it per household, is it per mile?
oh, per
Is it
mile,
per
yeah,
lot?
that's the thing, the denominator is hugely important.
Yeah, but to start, so you're saying total budget by function
By-
for
Yeah.
for the comparable communities.
Mhm.
Comparable communities. Evaluation.
Yeah, you're right.
Just to see the
Keep it a
range.
higher level.
And then say we're
Keep it
in order of magnitude different from another town, well, then we ask the second order,
And then
why?
I look at.
And then we can have.
Okay, total budget by function. We also need to do, this is where the services provided need to be there. You know, it's almost like a checklist, right? Do they provide trash? There's a suite of services that are mandatory. But do they provide 24/7 fire? Do they provide ambulance? Do they provide 24/7 police?
Yeah.
Do they have their own, do they use a shared 911
Regionalized, yeah.
region, you know?
Yeah. To Amanda's point, sometimes not always cut and dry, right? You can ask a community if they provide trash and they say, yeah, but we don't do recycling. Or yeah, but compost is mandatory. So sometimes you have to take it to those.
Yeah.
Well,
Make sure you're collecting that
Yeah,
type of.
these are
information, too.
the answers to, you know,
Right.
why the numbers are gonna be
Yeah.
different. It's
Right.
much harder to answer.
Right.
Yeah.
Is Tom where I totally agree. We'll probably have to talk to
Yeah,
some people.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, this is like the why.
Yeah.
You know, once you get down a little bit, it's like, oh my God,
It's gonna get
all
really
these variables.
That's why I wanted to stay like very high level at the start. 'Cause it's-
Well, I think that's where you get your budget by function. And then the town, and comparable communities and their demographics.
One way you could do it is, records request, cause they're required to respond to them.
Yeah.
Oh, of all these towns. How to find out about your town and make you hate us.
How to make your enemy.
Please fill out this template. Yeah, this is like budget season at work. Please fill out this template.
Okay. That's what we're trying to get, right? It's really, town demographics. Number of residents. Number of households. Number of students.
This all go in Excel?
Has to.
yeah.
It's super organized.
Yes.
Number of residents, households, students, miles a road.
I didn't bring them.
Maybe it'll come out in revenue. Well, the revenue will inform like
Yeah.
commercial footprint or whatever.
Yeah.
Total assessed value.
Yeah.
Yeah, the assessed value, total assessed value.
Wow.
Yeah.
By class, yeah.
Mhm.
Mill rate by classification. Well, you could back into that, but that tells you if they have split rates.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's all there.
I don't know, you would do like median home value.
Median income.
Median income, yeah.
If you want, Jack, and send around this other AI generated report, it has a lot of these suggestions. Metrics and so forth.
Does the state have is this all available, supervision? It's just not up to date.
This stuff, unfortunately,
It's not consistently updated. When you
Yeah.
try to match it, you can't necessarily.
and
find
you have
it.
some that's 4 or 5 years old.
Okay. So like every once in a while you'll see an
But
article
some of this
in the
stuff is
Globe about something and it's got these like maps, you can like hover over, it's
Yeah,
like,
DLS.
you know,
that's it.
median income in all these towns.
DLS.
It's just not up to date.
I was just looking at this again. And basically, in terms of improving organizational effectiveness, they said there's 4 key questions. How do we increase revenue, reoccurring revenue?
Mm-hmm.
How do we reduce operating costs? How do we deliver services differently? And how do we restructure government to support the first 3? So this is what AI for what it's.
It's like, I don't know, is this one to one?
This is a page.
Have you thought of increasing revenue?
Okay, so, all right, so from just ancient, so what I would like to do is send this out to everyone.
Yeah.
I'm gonna actually take these and clean it up and send it out to each of you guys. And tell me what towns are gonna take and go fill it in. We might ask our quant jock over here on my left to come when I send this stuff over to a standard format.
I'll make a template for sure.
You knew I was coming back
Yeah,
here
I was
for
already
that.
thinking about it.
Yeah. So it's standard template to collect this information. I'll pass it over to you guys and we can do this over the next coming weeks with the intent of, at a minimum, now let's look, Boxford and Middleton have to be in here, whether we agree they're not, just because of the dialogue, I think. Carlisle, cool, it's kind of at the higher end of our stuff. You know, I mean, they're similar in everything except for their net wealth and home values, which are way up there.
Georgetown's good, Hamilton, Ipswich.
Yeah.
Linfield, I feel like is an outlier. They got a lot of commercial,
When I was originally looking at this stuff, I looked at population. And then there were some communities that are on there, like Newberry, Rowley, and Salisbury are in one district.
That's
So
right.
I included those. Groveland, Merrimack, and West Newberry are in another K-12 district. And
Groveland would be an interesting one to add to this.
I think that's,
Topsfield, Boxford, and Middleton, because we're in the same district.
Okay,
So
let
I
me do
did
this.
9 communities
Oh, yeah,
that were just Essex County, just North Shore County. just
Yeah.
North Shore community.
yeah, it's interesting whether or not they're in a regional school district.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's gonna change the number drastically.
Yep.
Manchester's an interesting
I
one.
started doing superintendent salaries, and then it's like, some do just professional salaries within the superintendent line, you know, it's like.
Yeah, and
Trying to gather it, and it's just not easy.
No, I know, this is gonna get, it's gonna get messy so fast. Yeah, what do we think the tax rate is in Manchester? It's probably so low.
Probably love it.
It's probably like single digit. It's like nothing because the houses are worth a fortune.
yeah.
It's like the second richest town per capita in the entire East Coast.
No,
Seaside community,
Yeah,
like it's,
Manchester, right? See, oh, got so much.
Yeah.
There.
Really should get some.
we rented there for, when we first got married.
it was always a fairly wealthy town. It's a much wealthier town. It's kind of like Newburyport. Newburyport in the 70s was not a nice place.
Right.
Growing up there, it was it was not. Now, Newport, Nantucket North. All right, so we've got Rowley, Salisbury, Swampscott. Does Swampscott feel right?
I don't even know Tingsboro.
It's another one very wealthy because the Swampscott's just above.
Oh, but Marblehead, yeah, that's right.
Swampscott,
I mean,
I was that's what I'm
yeah, this is a sidebar, but I'm in Eastham right now, and they've got the ideal, lots of non-residents paying tons of taxes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything oceanfront is maybe worth excluding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would agree, Swampscott doesn't have a lot of second residencies, that's primary residencies, but it's high end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Rowley makes sense, Salisbury, Swampscott, yes or no?
No, because again, I think you're right on with like seaside communities,
Yeah.
right?
Tingsboro, Wenham, Linfield.
I think Tingsboro is.
I couldn't tell you where Tingsboro is.
Tingsboro is close to a town I grew up in, and I don't think that it's similar to here at all.
How many do we need?
No?
We don't want to not do a town and it'd be an obvious one, because people would go, you know, that. I think Wenham's a good one, because it's very small. I know, again, super high property values, but it is a very small town.
Right, so Tingsboro, I'm curious, just because it gets us out of, agreed, but it gets us out of the North Shore type of
That's
thing.
Carlisle too.
Yeah.
I would say Carlisle's probably closer than Tingsboro.
So I think we're here, Carlisle's here from an economics perspective, Tingsboro's here. Don't know. All right.
This is more open space.
Yeah.
Than Tingsboro.
I worry
Tingsboro
the
has more
further
businesses.
we get away, then it's like, well, why did you pick one versus another? Because you've sort of expanded your.
Yeah, I think we want to keep
right?
somewhat relative of a proximity to the town here. But
Okay.
what about like West Newbury?
Yeah, West Newbury should be in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
Um,
part of Groveland, Merrimack, that's the
that's
three of them.
Pentucket.
Pentucket,
so-
yeah.
And I think Groveland should be in here as well.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, God,
Yeah.
we could do a whole, it's on regional schools.
Byfield.
Pentucket, right?
Byfield is actually a part of Newbury.
Yeah.
Okay.
From a town perspective, it's not its own entity.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it always has been.
Newbury.
It's like a,
Byfield.
it has its own zip code, but it is part of Newbury.
It always had, yeah.
Yeah.
It was there, and they had their own volunteer fire department, but
And
they
their
were,
own water
Mhm.
district.
yeah, but it is
Wow.
Newbury.
Yeah.
Boxford, Carlisle, Georgetown, Hamilton, Ipswich. Those are,
What about Wenham?
Rockport.
Wenham's up top.
Wenham's up top.
Yeah. Rowley.
North Andover might not be a bad one
That's
to
a
have
good
in
one.
there.
Yeah.
They've got a little more,
What about Ipswich? Is that?
Ipswich is in there.
Did we get to Linfield?
Linfield is in there. North Andover has a little more, commercial,
Yeah.
but
I think it'd be an intriguing one to look at.
Probably have more there than we need.
We may learn things from those towns too. Like, oh, they spend more on this, but they're paying for it differently.
Mhm.
yeah. Well, there's one that we need to add to this. CPA, Community Preservation Act.
Oh,
Well, Boxford,
So
Middle,
which towns do, because it's not included in your tax rate, but it is an added increased tax.
yeah,
So if you have the Community Preservation Act and you've enabled it in your town, you get an extra 1% tax, but it's not in your tax rate.
Right.
And you get to spend that on what, conservation stuff?
So that,
More
but
different,
conservation, yeah, good.
Yeah.
It can be used for, we're not a CPA town. We never passed it. But it can be used for land conservation. It can be used for conservation and or the betterment of the town facilities. And by that, I mean things like playgrounds, roofs, things like that. It can be used for more than just that.
Historical preservation.
Historical preservation, and what's the for, is it,
Affordable housing.
okay. But,
Open
state
space.
funds pretty much ran out on that, I heard.
yeah, but why it matters is that that's a bucket of money that the towns that do have, but doesn't show up in their, when they look at, when their state tax rate,
Right.
it doesn't show up. So if we know they're a CPA town, we need to go figure that out and add it
Mhm.
into the analysis for what their tax rate is
Mhm.
and taxes are,
Mhm.
because it's another line item.
I'm gonna ask a very
And-
silly question. Every town's sort of facing the same thing. What's the chance that this analysis already exists? Some other town's done it in the area.
It's a good question.
We're not asking unique questions here. And like every town's gonna be thinking the same thing.
Let's do it, well, okay, step one
It's
is.
so silly if halfway through the process we find out, you know,
Yeah,
Rowley's already done this
here.
with the same group of towns.
Yeah.
It's a good question I mean, if they've done it, it's out there somewhere. Let's look for it. All right, we are way beyond where I thought we'd be on getting out of here tonight. we are way beyond where I thought we'd be.
3 minutes?
But minute and a half.
I'll try. What I tried to do is figure out financially where the town stands now and what does it look like a year going forward. Essex Tech, and I got numbers from Mike. You can actually calculate a 4.5% operating increase plus the net 7 people. If we gave them a 2.5%, guideline, we would need an override of 140,000 above that.
Mhm.
Just so I get a handle on what's going on.
Mhm.
So you guys can correct me on this, but I looked at fixed free cash uses. I came up with a nominal $1 million a year. And I included 1 police cruiser in there
Yeah.
because that's
Yeah.
just to kind of get a handle on it.
Yeah. And is that inclusive of the pension and the OPEB?
Yeah.
Other of OPEB? Okay.
Right.
Which is something we need to.
Overall, though, I think we all know the spending has been going up much more than Prop 2.5.
Mhm.
We have about a 3.1% increase before we hit the Prop 2.5 limit with new growth. Nominally, but from my records, the spending, not the budget, but the spending increases have averaged about 4.7% for all. So you look at that gap and you say, we've got a structural problem.
Yep.
I was trying to get an understanding, of the problems we face. And I think that it's very helpful. I'd like to try to refine this a little bit more. I think it's helpful for everybody to be on the same page. Look,
Yeah.
we got a problem.
Oh,
There's no more space in the town budget to absorb overrides. I don't think there's any more easy cuts.
mhm. I think you're, sorry to use an analogy, you're at church yelling at the people who have been in church about that they should be at church.
Practicing.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
I agree. This is what we've been, you're literally preaching to the choir.
Yeah, I'm trying to define the narrative.
Yeah,
That's all.
no, I appreciate it.
There's a little more than a minute and a half. I took my 3
Okay.
minutes.
All right, so on that note, we have one last thing, and I'm really torn on this because I really would like to have her be the chair. Let's,
Why don't you have her be the chair in September?
Is she willing to be the summer chair?
yes,
Okay, good.
yes,
She didn't know what it looked like, so.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm wondering if there's a way,
Little bait and switch.
there's this, she's,
Co-chairs?
yeah, do that. Just do that. If you guys are good with that. I mean,
That's a good-
I said, don't
that's a
do,
great
you
idea.
can't have 2, but we'll do 2, and
Mhm.
Well, it's,
you can't have
You can
2
divide up
heads.
some other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she'll take anything that is not this.
Mhm.
I think I'll talk to her about it, and I'll take, hey, the future outlook and leading that future outlook and trying to push
Critical to
that.
get this started correctly.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to appoint Jay and Catherine as co-chairs,
summer,
summer chairs.
cool.
Second.
Yep, second. I'm listening.
All right, any discussion? Roll call, Mike?
I thank you both for doing it, and so that's sort of an aye.
Okay, Heidi,
I,
Tom,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Jay. Aye.
Thank you both.
That's a good
Thank you.
idea.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Very
I mean, I'm gonna look at it as she's the chair on everything except this piece, and I'll coordinate with her on this, but we'll do it then. And I do know that there are other towns that actually have done that. I don't, Bloxford has done that for the last year or 2.
I
Or
really
Middleton.
think we can get a lot of people helping
I think that,
when you coordinated.
I
That's
think,
the
yeah.
impression I get talking to people.
I respectfully, I think I hope that's the case. It's kind of a self-selecting result if you get that.
Mhm.
But ultimately, that's going to be, again, select board needs to be steering this. And I'll try and be an engine to push them forward, but if they don't steer it, I'm going to push them right into a wall. Any final things we need to cover?
Logistical question on this analysis, we
Yes.
cannot use shared documents, is that true? Sure.
Correct.
We're gonna be filling out a template, like what's the easiest way to,
Send them
that.
back to me.
we're just gonna keep doing it, everybody have their own.
So everyone has their own, because you're each gonna take your own towns
Yeah, I'm just thinking like in terms of, okay, everybody will get their numbers and then
Yeah.
we can consolidate.
and then consolidate them down. What I would expect that coming out, hopefully, will be an update and a call to action. This is gonna happen, but a call to action for people that want to participate in whatever the select board puts together. That'll be sent out. I'll look for responses on that. And we can then from there expect that there will be hopefully be meetings this summer to start
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
Hopefully.
Yeah, we can. We really can't wait.
Yeah.
Is it worth us starting this though?
Yeah, this stuff I would expect, let's go
Okay.
on this, let's go on this stuff there, yeah. And get that information. All right, I need a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
We have a first
Second.
roll call, Mike,
Aye.
Heidi, Tom,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Jay, aye. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Aye.
you.